Yep. Not yet.
You're good.
Very good. All right. Very good. I'd like to call this meeting to order. The Ridgewood Village Council Public Workshop Agenda. The date is January 27th, 2021. The time is 7:32 p.m. Roll call.
Councilwoman Perrin.
I'm sorry.
Here.
Wait, I'm sorry. Wait. I'm sorry. I don't know what I'm doing. Adequate notice of this meeting is provided by posting on the bulletin board in Village Hall by mail to the Ridgewood News, the Record, and by submission to all persons entitled. Same is provided by law of a schedule, including the date and time of this meeting. And we're going to go to Deputy Mayor on the remote meeting format before we do our roll call. Go ahead.
Thank you. Due to the fact that we continue to meet through a remote meeting format, there are some required announcements to make. All participants are muted during this meeting. Anyone wishing to make comments may do so during comments from the public and during the public hearings on any ordinances by dialing *9 on your phones to raise your hand. And then once you are recognized, dialing *6 on your phones to unmute, or by raising your hand icon if you are on your computers. You must state your name and address for the record. Members of the public may also submit written comments to us for any future remote meetings by either email it to Donna Jackson, Deputy Village Clerk, at djackson@ridgewoodnj.net with the subject line "Comments for Village Council Meeting," or written letter to Donna Jackson, Deputy Village Clerk. Written comments must be received by 4 p.m. on the day before the remote meeting in order to be read into the record during the meeting. All written comments must adhere to the time limits already set by ordinance. Members of the public commenting during a remote meeting shall not act in any manner to disrupt the meeting. If anyone becomes disruptive during the meeting, they will be muted. If time permits, the disruptive individual shall be allowed to speak after all other members of the public are provided an opportunity to comment. Any continued disruption may result in the member being prevented from speaking during the remainder of this meeting. Disruptive conduct includes, but is not limited to, shouting, interruption, and use of profanity.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. And now we'll do the roll call.
Councilwoman Perrin.
Here.
Councilwoman Reynolds.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Seaton.
Here.
Councilwoman Walsh.
Here.
Mayor Knudsen.
Here. Please join us in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic
for which it stands,
one
one nation,
under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please join us for a moment of silence for men and women serving our nation, our first responders. Thank you. And with that, we will go to public comments, not to exceed 3 minutes per person for a total of 40 minutes. And our deputy clerk has a timer. And so going to try and give any members of the public who exceed 3 minutes or get to the 3 minutes, we'll give you a little warning. And then we'll ask that you politely just end your comments quickly. So very good.
Okay, and I also have 4 comments that were emailed to me also.
So what we're going to do is, just to keep some order to this, we will do the public comment in the phone queue, call-in comments first, and then once we finish those, we'll go to those written comments. Thank you. Go ahead, Bill.
I'm bringing in the first person. Hans.
Good evening, Hans. State your name and address for the record, please.
Hi, it's actually Jan Phillips using Hans's computer. Mine is down. So Jan Phillips, Philips, just 1L, 234 Union Street, Ridgewood. And I just have one question. What's the procedure and protocol to fly a flag on the flagpole located in the Van Ness Square, but in the public free speech area?
Okay. That was your comment, Jan?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. We'll get back to you on that. Just let's continue with public comments. Go ahead.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jan. Thank you.
Okay, next person is Neil Sullivan. Please unmute.
Good evening, Neil. Please state your name and address for the record. Hello, please unmute and state your name and address for the record.
Okay, I'm trying to, can you hear me now?
Yes, good.
Okay, I'm getting used to the technology. Thank you. Neil Sullivan, 335 East Ridgewood Avenue, in Ridgewood. I just have a few comments about the pickleball situation. I play pickleball, love the sport, and I thank again the town council and the recreation department for putting pickleball courts in. The last meeting I had been to, the council spoke about pickleball for a long period of time, and it was concentrated on the noise level. And I thought about the noise level. People, maybe the mayor or other council members said they were over there while pickleball was being played, but they talked about being on the road or various other places, but I didn't hear anybody say they were in the houses. Apparently there's 3 houses that which it's really bad, at least they claim that. And there are other houses in the proximity of the pickleball courts that haven't said anything. So I guess they were all right. But my first question is, did anybody go into the houses near that were complaining about the noise in the house when the pickleball was being played? I'd assume the windows would be down, which exists in most cases. Most people were in their houses with windows closed most of the time. Did anybody do that?
Neil, this is public comment. It's not.
Oh, it is? Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, understood. All good.
It's my ignorance on the procedure. Sorry.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Okay. I'm trying to establish an objectivity on the noise level. I'm sympathetic to homeowners if the noise levels is bad, as if it is that bad, I'm sympathetic to them, okay? But I'd like to establish objectivity. The way I would do it would be to go into the homes while the play was on. There would be windows as a barrier, okay? And there'd be more, rather than being on the road or outside where sound travels more easily. And if that has not been done, I would suggest that members of the council and possibly some people, representatives from pickleball, go there. And I think that would be the most objective way of determining the noise level, because that's where people usually live, and most of the times their windows are down. Secondly, the experts that put in the sound barriers for $20,000, have they been contacted to find out if that can be approved or what can be done, maybe get our money back? Third, are there other sound people that can come in and possibly make suggestions to alleviate the situation? So those are 3 things, but going inside the houses to determine the natural noise level is the first thing. The next thing is that if in fact the noise level is that loud and it's actually determined to be that way, it would be a shame to have spent, I think, close to $100,000 with the sound barriers on courts and let them be fallow. So I would suggest that most people playing there are seniors, they play in the morning, that the time be cut. That it be, say, between 8 and 12 or 8 and 1, and the rest of the day be free. If you live in a house that's near a tennis court and a school, grammar school no less, and a soccer,
Neil, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but you have a 3-minute and the timer went off. But I did want to say we hear what you're saying, and we thank you for your thoughtful comments. Okay.
Thank you for listening. Thank you. Stay well.
All right, next person is Beth Gould-Kreller. Please unmute.
Hi,
Good
Bethany.
evening. Beth Gould-Kreller, 719 Belmont Drive. I'm a recent Ridgewood resident, and I'm delighted to serve on Green Ridgewood now. I wanted to comment on the establishment of a government energy aggregation program. That's on the policy portion of the agenda this evening. I have about a 20-year career in energy, so I also bring that context to the comments as well. I really feel like we've nothing to lose by trying out this opportunity. We're not out of pocket to Gable and Associates, and this contract would be for a finite period of time. Residents can opt out if they're uncomfortable with it. And if you happen to sell or move your home, this contract does not follow you. We may in fact end up with a lower rate. Even if we pay slightly more, this is funding capital investment in future green energy alternatives. These are sustainable and they're needed to reach lower emission rates. Overall, this is an opportunity to be an early adopter, we're not the guinea pig. We have neighboring towns that are already doing this, so we're not the first ones to try this out here. And overall, I just feel like this project demonstrates our commitment to sustainable Jersey. That's all. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Beth. Have a good evening.
You too.
One more, Judy.
Hi, Judy, please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, good evening, everyone. This is Judy from 330 Eastbrook. I just wanted to reply to Neil's earlier comment. So hi, Neil. I live in the neighborhood around Glen School. I don't live directly around the court. My house is a block away, but I can tell you there are 7 to 8 houses 45 feet away from the pickleball court. I am very good friends with one of the neighbors who had moved. I've been at her house. Her house is one of the 7 or 8 houses right around the court. I've been at her house because we're such good friends constantly. She had paid about $37,000 for triple pane commercial grade windows. And I can tell you that when I was in her house, I can clearly hear the pickleball courts with all the windows closed. And at my house, across the street from her house, on the side of the house that's facing away from the courts, looking the opposite direction from the courts, when I have my windows open, I can clearly hear the pickleball courts. I do not want to be restrained and trapped inside my house. I have a big yard. I pay a lot of taxes, and I do not want to be constrained and not be able to use my yard, and people who have pools. And, you know, I really don't want to hide inside my house. That's just not fair to me and all the neighbors, just so that folks can come and leave whenever they want and go back to their quiet neighborhood and enjoy their quietness, but have fun in my neighborhood. That's just not fair. And having over 80 people outside of town come and go as they wish, that's just totally unfair. So I am very thankful that you are sympathetic and understand. And I hope, you know, I hope that everybody can have fun, but please be very, you know, we're just suffering here. We just do not want to constantly hear this noise. You can go back to your home and enjoy the quietness, but we have to constantly hear this, or we have to hide inside our house. As soon as I open my door into my garage, I can hear the pickleball, and my garage door is still closed. So my house is not even, you know, around the court. And then there are houses across the soccer ball field where the noise can totally, like, it's just popping every day, constantly. So I just want to let you know that, and I just want to respond to your comment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Judy. Have a good evening.
All right, next person is Dan Gioia.
Enjoy. Okay. Hi, Dan, just unmute and name and address for the record.
Yes, it's Dan Gioia, 447 Fairway Road in Ridgewood. Not that far from Vets, as we'll discuss in a second. But anyway, calling in to talk about the Glen School pickleball facility, respectfully asking that they be reopened immediately while we discuss what the long-term solution is here. Closing the facilities abruptly, you know, with no notice to any of the parties, I think is inappropriate, and just was basically a rug pulled out from under, you know, people's feet without any discussion. Evidently, there was discussion with people in the neighborhoods, but not any of the people who were playing pickleball. You know, the community, we should understand, the pickleball community should understand, as well as the town should understand, you know, the breadth and specifics and the complaints of the neighbors. Just heard from Judy, who has talked about, I guess, the loud noises coming from the pickleball popping. You know, Judy, stop by my place on 4th of July if you'd like. We're a block and a half from Vets. You can also stop by on Father's Day. There's no parking for the entire neighborhood because people are parking for the soccer tournament. So when we moved in, we understood that we had a park near us and that it would be that there would be some inconveniences of it, and we're dealing with it. You know, we don't love all of the music that's being played at the band shell, but we live with it, right? I'd also call into question for the people over in that neighborhood. You know, do you not hear Route 17? It's not a quiet neighborhood. I was over there on Saturday with my wife we got out of the car just to listen, and you hear Route 17 swishing by. So it's not like it's it's quiet as a mouse there. I think what we'd like also is to see some actual engagement from the council and the mayor with the people who play pickleball. My understanding is there are some people who have tried to create a group but can't seem to get any mind share and discussion going with from the council. So I would, as a taxpayer, expect, and now I demand, that happens. And then also, you know, at the end of the day, it's a community. Some of the ideas that happened a few weeks ago on the call is you know, having 1 or 2 courts around here and there doesn't really work. It's a communal activity. For multiple courts or something, you know, is much more part of the game, the social aspect. A couple ideas on a path forward here. We could reduce the number of hours. We can reduce the number of hours.
Dan?
We could also add, yes.
Dan, I'm sorry, the timer, it was 3 minutes, but we hear what you're saying, and I know everybody had your email, so I appreciate it. Thank you for your thoughtful comments, and we have to move to the next person, okay? Thanks, Dan.
Appreciate it. Yep.
Okay.
Looking forward to the conversations.
Great.
All right, next person. Wait, that's the same person. No, hold on. I think we already called this person in. Neil Sullivan?
Yeah.
Oh, we did. All right. Then there's no others.
Okay, great. So with that, we're going to move to the additional email comments or no comments. Go ahead,
Sure.
Dawn. Mhm.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. The first letter is from Bob Upton, 172 West Glen Avenue. I apologize that I cannot appear in person tonight, but wish to add to the comments I made to you on January 6th prior to the presentation about renewable government energy aggregation agreements, a topic you will be discussing tonight. On that occasion, I informed the council that Green Ridgewood encouraged the council to consider the benefits of these programs in reducing dependence on fossil fuels with their associated impact on climate change. At our subsequent Green Ridgewood meeting, the committee voted unanimously to recommend that the council move ahead with the process of passing an ordinance and seeking bids, recognizing that if no acceptable bids are received, there is no obligation on the village to proceed and no direct cost to the village. It should also be noted that bids can be required to include modest cost savings for residents and that residents can opt out at any time before or after the contract begins. Thank you. The next letter is from Jean Solomon, 648 Spring Avenue. Dear Mayor Knudsen, Deputy Mayor Seaton, Councilwoman Reynolds, Councilwoman Perrin, Councilwoman Walsh, please reopen the pickleball courts. What are you waiting for? Since the unilateral decision in December to padlock the dedicated pickleball courts until March 22nd, you, the members of the Village Council, have received a great deal of specific new information which should warrant reassessing the situation. The players have offered many short and long-term suggestions on how to appease the neighbors and help mitigate the situation. As you know, the new policy of the courts being used only by Ridgewood residents and the reduction in the hours of play, attendance and usage will be significantly decreased. The Parks and Recreation Department has received immediate solutions from the manufacturer of Acoustablock to help the noise abatement. So what are you waiting for? It appears that there is no sense of urgency on the part of the council members to resolve this issue. For the players, many of whom are seniors, there's a tremendous sense of urgency. The next cold and pandemic restricted months will surely bring increased isolation for them, so time is of the essence. Again, I ask, what are you waiting for? Please just reopen the courts on February 1st. This would give you a week to list the new fee schedule and rules. Then you will witness the difference the reduced attendance brings and most importantly, see the joy, excitement, and appreciation of the Ridgewood citizens who just want to spend some quality time doing physical activity and having social interaction. What are you waiting for? The next is from Linda McNamara, 575 Knickerbocker Road. Dear Mayor, council members, village manager, at the last council meeting, Nancy Bigos was prepared to show a PowerPoint presentation that was put together by the Parks and Recreation staff that could not be shown because the council had not seen it prior to the meeting. I'm hoping that it will be shown so that residents can be made privy to that information. I have taken a small informal survey of about 100 people regarding the status of the health barn and pickleball courts. Everyone in my survey and also listening to comments made at council meetings are almost unanimously in favor of continuing the lease for the health barn and keeping the pickleball program open for maximum use. Residents have not been part of the conversation regarding the health barn issues, and I believe a public meeting on the subject would be beneficial. Most of the early on concerns have been mitigated, and residents who had originally voiced concern are no longer against the location of the health barn. We get so many benefits from this tenant, including renovation of the house and rental fees. Regarding pickleball, there are newer paddles and balls that have been purchased, lessening the noise significantly, and informal decibel tests have been taken showing minimal noise during the game itself. Parks and Recreation is in the process of formulating programs for special needs children, and seniors love it. Hours can be adjusted to best suit everyone's needs. In fact, they are ready to be implemented as soon as they are permitted to do so. Please consider moving forward with the continuation of the health barn at its current location and a robust pickleball program. Last, we operate under a belief that majority rules, and I believe in the above two cases. The majority has spoken in large numbers. The last is from Drew Ann Rodney, 125 South Maple Avenue. I am writing concerning the pickleball courts at Glen School. This is the second email that I have sent, and as a 30-plus resident of Ridgewood, I am disappointed that I have not received any reply. As I mentioned earlier, we want to have the courts opened and/or a plan to open them. Unilaterally closing the courts without any open discussion seems unreasonable. When can our voices be heard? That's all that I have.
Okay, very good.
Mayor, I have one more person with their hand raised during the reading.
Okay, go ahead. It's fine. Your time.
Walter, please unmute.
Walter, good evening. Name and address for the record.
Walter Sahagan, 31 Ridge Road. My comment is basically, I'm upset with the lack of transparency in the operation of the council. I don't know who voted which way on the issue. I don't know what you've been considering, and I've heard from others in favor of continuing with the pickleball that they have not been able to get through. This is inappropriate. I have another problem with the council even dealing with this issue. Last year, the tennis courts on Pleasant Avenue were resurfaced. The far court has so many dead spots that it's unplayable. I don't know what the role of the council was in the payment and approval and supervision was, but it can't be good. For the future, we need more transparency from the council on what's going on. I feel that improper attention is being given to the homeowners without taking the rights and the taking the rights of the pickleball players into account. That's all I'll have to say for tonight. And the pickleball players should not have to consider instituting a lawsuit in order to get transparency from the council. That should be forthcoming. Thank you.
Walter.
And that's all I have.
Okay, great. So just a couple of things. Just in response to Jan regarding the flag pole in the public forum space, it's certainly something we'll be revisiting at a later date. Presently, there's no ordinance or any rules or regulations pertaining to that. It was discussed several times by village council, but we've come to no decision. And I just want to respond to the last comment regarding transparency. I think this village council is here week in and week out discussing these matters. Public has every opportunity to call in and comment. There's nothing that's hidden from any member of the public, and I think it's a remarkable comment, an unfair comment, and I think this village council is incredibly transparent and will continue to do that good work. So with that, we'll go to the manager's report.
Okay, I'm going to talk briefly about the COVID-19 vaccine. We encourage you to register and inquire with as many vaccine outlets as possible. The new state phone number, which just took place, went live on Monday, January 25th, is 855-568-0545. It's staffed from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. with 250 agents. When people did try to call on Monday, it was overwhelmed and a recorded message was given. It may have died down by now, so you can always call that number if you need information about vaccine sites or possible information that you have to give to get a vaccine. If you are a Ridgewood resident and over 65 or older, you can email covid@ridgewoodnj.net. You do have to fit into the qualification of having that age, having an underlying health condition, or being a healthcare worker. We encourage you to register for many sites for the vaccine. We have a limited supply of the vaccine, and we're doing our best to administer it as quickly as possible. If we can schedule an appointment for you, we will email you. This could take several weeks, and we cannot guarantee you an appointment. It all depends on how much vaccine we get week to week. The annual parking permits are still on sale at Village Hall reception desk and between the hours of 10 a.m. to 12 noon or 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. at the customer service window to the left of the lobby doors of Village Hall. If there are any questions, you can call the receptionist at 201-670-5500 extension 200. To date, we have sold 24 premium permits and 13 non-premium permits. Usually by this time, the premium permits are sold out and the non-premium permits are, quite larger than 13. Chamber of Commerce Restaurant Week ends tomorrow night with reduced costs. This is a good way to sample restaurants in Ridgewood Central Business District. Christmas tree pickup is doing its final pickup on the west side, curbside on January 28th between the hours of 8 a.m. and 3 p.m. Please remove all ornaments and lights from the Christmas trees and do not place them in a plastic bag. If you still wish to drop off your Christmas tree, you may do so till this Friday, January 29th. And if you need additional information, please call the Parks Department at 201-670-5565. We have 15-minute complimentary parking spaces in the Central Business District. They are spaces on Oak Street, Chestnut Street, North Broad Street, directly off of East Ridgewood Avenue, and Wellesley Square on the west side. They're limited to 15 minutes only. They're free of charge to everyone and are to be used to do a quick errand or pick up some food or visit a business. Please be aware that if you remain in these spaces for longer than 15 minutes, you subject yourself to possibly receiving a summons. These spaces have been generously sponsored by several local businesses and Ridgewood residents who are acknowledged on the 15-minute parking signs. The food recycling pilot program is still accepting applications for their program. As you know, food is one of the largest parts of our solid waste stream, and we pay to send food trash to the landfill, and costs are increasing. Those who participate in the program will be given a 5-gallon food scrap collection container. The resident must empty the collection container at the recycling center every week, along with a weekly data entry from each participant. Anyone is interested may apply online under the recycling department on the village website. We have about 85 residents signed up, and the application deadline is January 31st. The program will begin in a few weeks after that date, and participants are requested to be in the program for at least 9 months. Snow and ice reminders. I just want to remind everyone, on days when snow or ice is forecast, residents are required to bring their garbage cans to the end of the driveway for collection. Village staff will pick up garbage and recycling at the curb. Rear yard collection will resume once there is a clear path to your garbage cans. Please remember to keep cars off the streets so plows can do their work. For events, Super Science Saturday will be held March 6th, and that's in a virtual format. We'll have more information forthcoming when we get closer to that date. Cancellations, the annual baseball parade and family fun day event and Earth Day Fair, Daffodil Festival, and Dog Parade have been canceled, which are in April. Village Council upcoming meetings are broadcast live. February 3rd, next week, is a work session at 7:30 p.m. February 10th is our Village Council public meeting at 8 o'clock p.m. And February 24th is the Village Council public work session, which is at 7:30 p.m. Please remember that the public meetings begin at 8 o'clock p.m. There is a 7:30 p.m. meeting, which the public is welcome to attend and can make comments. However, if you wish to have your comments noted in the regular main part of the meeting, please wait until 8 p.m. to make your public comments on public meeting nights. That's all I have.
That's it. Very good. Councilwoman Perrin.
Thank you, Mayor. The Open Space Committee met, and we noted that our suggestion was taken up. We had suggested that each of our open spaces be highlighted in turn on social media, and Deanna Shablik, a village employee, has taken the laboring oar on that. We want to thank her. She did the feature on Grove Park, and it's really delightful. And if you haven't been to Grove Park, it is one of our gems. Also, we are seeking to extend members' terms on the Open Space Committee from 1 year to 2 years. And I expect that'll be on for discussion at next week's council meeting. Yes, thank you, Ms. Mailander. And then the Central Business District Advisory Committee met, and we had a presentation from Green Ridge Wealth Management regarding innovations and disruptions that one might anticipate in the business world in 2021. We also discussed other ongoing matters, such as what will happen with the pedestrian mall once we get into spring, and hopefully it comes back, and also village budgeting. So that's it for my committees.
Very good. Thank you. Councilwoman Reynolds. Can you unmute?
Thank you, Mayor. Sorry. The planning board met on January 19th. We listened to an application for 2-4 Garber Square for a minor site plan approval and a parking variance relief to permit a restaurant on the ground level and a 6-room inn on the second floor. There's already a tailor and a salon on the first floor, so the remainder of the first floor would be the restaurant. The basement would be used for storage for the restaurant, the kitchen, and for patron bathrooms. They decided to bifurcate the application into 2 parts. So we heard one part on January 19th, which was the parking variance, and we voted to grant them variance relief. We will hear the site plan application on February 16th. We also heard an application for Pickleball Bistro on Chestnut Street. They're going to replace their awning, and that was granted. And we reviewed an ordinance incorporating the New Jersey DEP's requirements for stormwater management, which the Village Council is going to be reviewing the same ordinance tonight. The next planning board meeting is February 2nd. And then Citizen Safety Advisory Committee met on January 21st. It was a fairly quiet meeting because not a lot of progress is being made on items that they're working on due to COVID-19. One thing that was mentioned by Sergeant Shuck, he said that the police department has gotten some complaints regarding New Jersey transit buses traveling on Ridgewood Avenue in the CBD. He suggested that the plans to move the bus station to the train station area be looked at again. He noted that when it was first discussed, there were objections, but now he feels there's less traffic and congestion at the train station as more people are working from home, and also that the parking garage has been completed. So he just brought that up. I'm not sure if we're going to be looking at that, but it was a suggestion. Fairlawn is rolling out a Street Smart New Jersey campaign to increase pedestrian safety. And we will be looking into this and discussing that at the next meeting, which is February 18th. That's it.
Great.
Councilwoman Reynolds,
Yes.
you say that there's an application for Garber Square with a restaurant on the first floor and an inn above. Is that an inn, the kind where you stay overnight, or the inn
Yes,
the kind where
6
you...
rooms. They're going to create, 6 rooms. Sounds interesting.
Where was I? Oh, it's a boutique inn. It looks beautiful.
Yes.
Councilwoman Walsh.
Thank you, Mayor. I only have to report on Parks and Rec, which was last evening. It was a long meeting and it was very energetic, I'll say that. We had a lot of people on voicing their concerns. We first had a presentation by Stacy Antine. Oops, sorry, my dogs are barking in the background. Sorry about that. About Health Barn, and she explained what Health Barn does in their calendar year. They work with seniors, they work with individuals with special needs, they work with children, they work with seniors, teenagers, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts. The topic of food insecurity came up. They work with Bergen County, Commissioner Tracy Zur on talking about food insecurity throughout our region. It was basically an overview of everything that Health Barn does. And then the conversation turned to pickleball. And, we had a lot of individuals expressing their concerns about pickleball. And I just want to just kind of give maybe a little bit of a timeline, because I think there's a lot of people that are either confused about how everything came to be, or it's like playing the game of telephone where one person tells another person, and then by the time the 5th person gets it, the story has changed. So the council had 3 meetings in January when the mayor and the village manager and the director of parks and I met. I believe the date was December 17th, when we were determining what we could do to give the council, the 5-member council, a chance to really review it and make decisions. We knew that we were having 3 meetings in January. We had not sold any badges yet. We knew that the price of the badges was going to remain the same, but we had not determined whether we were going to sell to residents and non-residents. We did not know if we were going to change the hours. And at that point, we realized that it really had to come to a full conversation of all 5 council members with the parks director and the village manager, and all the input by the public, as many people that wanted to call in. And this will be our 3rd meeting talking about it in the public. So I just wanted to kind of get that out there. We're trying to be fair to everybody involved. We've made some suggestions at the January 6th meeting. We made more suggestions. We're actually going to be having another meeting tomorrow with some pickleball individuals. So we're trying to gather as much information we can to make the smartest decision. We've all had residents write in, both pro and con. We've had individuals make suggestions, actually, and the director of parks is actually in touch with now Commissioner Hache about some courts that have been unused by the county that we might be able to share use there and turn them into pickleball. So we're really trying our best to really listen to all sides and to make a fair decision. We do want pickleball in Ridgewood. We definitely want pickleball in Ridgewood, but we also just want to be fair and make the right decision. So that's pretty much all that was talked about at Parks and Rec. And then the other thing is, since Earth Day is canceled, we really want everybody to remember that you can still do something around your own home with your kids, with your spouses, with your friends to celebrate Earth Day. That's all.
Thank you, Councilwoman Walsh. Deputy Mayor Seaton.
Thank you, Mayor. All I have is to announce that tomorrow at 5 p.m. the Community Center Advisory Board will meet via Zoom, and then at 7:30 p.m. tomorrow also the Ridgewood Arts Council will meet. So I'll have some updates on that at the next meeting, but that's all I have for right now. Thank you.
Great. And then there's me. So a few things. I just wanted to go back to first the planning board and point out that the parking variance that was granted, it's actually, these are historic buildings, and by nature of the structure of our downtown and how it was developed, there just is no parking. And while we just love our historic buildings, it's important to note that these are hardship conditions because there's just no way to access parking. There's no space for parking. I will say that the applicant made contact with a number of downtown sites, different businesses, to see how he could establish appropriate parking for that project. But it really just looks like a fabulous project, and we're really excited that this is going to happen downtown. And I just want to speak to Councilwoman Walsh's points about pickleball. And yes, we did meet, and I want to reiterate that it's unfortunate when there's a suggestion that something has not been done in the public, because we've worked so hard to be really transparent. And we really just want to be considerate of the needs of the public at large, but also our neighbors, the village neighbors in the immediate area. So I think it's important, and I'm confident we're going to come with a solution, and that we will reopen and everyone will be back playing pickleball in short order. We hope that for that. So back to mine. Community Access Network Access met last Thursday via Zoom. I updated members on the status of the special needs affordable units at 275 East Ridgewood Avenue, including 2 group homes and 8 independent units. The applications will be available late February, early March. It's important to keep checking back at bergenunitedway.org to see when those applications are available. I want to thank Tom Toronto, United Way, for updating the website just to make sure that everyone was aware of the timing on those applications. And again, we ask everyone to keep checking back to bergenunitedway.org for the applications for the special needs housing. The special needs community also discussed their concerns about the COVID-19 vaccine, the availability of vaccines, especially as it's impacted the special needs community and caregivers. These members of our community are not capable of traveling significant distances to access appointments out of this general area. So it's really been a benefit to have access to the Ridgewood vaccine clinic. And I know that the village manager and Dawn Citrullo from the health department have been working tirelessly on this, along with Dylan. I know that Dylan's been working on it. We're working on email sites and trying to get as much information out as possible. But our special needs community is certainly concerned about that as well. The group is also interested in something we would like to work on, is a local database of members of our special needs community, so that when our first responders encounter an individual with disabilities, that they understand the type of disability, the communication issues that might exist, the nonverbal, verbal, a number of things that come up whenever a member of the special needs community comes in contact with law enforcement or fire department or EMTs. So we were looking at that. We're likely going to reach out to Councilwoman Walsh there. She is stigma-free, the police department, fire department, EMS, the village manager, and Dawn Citrullo, to see how we can organize that. It's very similar to one that the county used to have. I don't know if they still do, but it would actually have just a database of that information, and it would make it a seamless issue or a seamless transition if somebody came in contact with our first responders. Let's see. Library Board of Trustees met last night. A number of issues were discussed, but one important issue or topic was the author luncheon, which will take place in April, hopefully, fingers crossed, but it will in all likelihood be a virtual event. So we're hoping we'll have more information on that and figure out how that would possibly work. I think it's challenging with a number of people in the past that have attended. As many of us know, that I think everybody on this screen just about has attended. It's hundreds of people, and the discussion as to whether or not to do an online auction was another option. So we're just looking at a lot of things, and hopefully we'll be back next month with some additional information. Board members are also reviewing the Reimagine application to see if there's any path forward to better understand what the positives and negatives were with the application to see if there's a way to regroup and rethink and then advance once again, reimagine. We also discussed the Pease Library, the lease on that. And I know that that is something, I think that the one tenant is looking to scale back on the space that they're utilizing. So we'll be out looking for a new tenant. And again, that will come back to this village council in short order. And I would like to congratulate our village attorney for being reappointed as the library attorney as well. So that was something we did last night also. Jamboree 2021, Mission Impossible. I'm wearing my official I Love Jamboree shirt. This will be a virtual musical review extravaganza 2021. Producers wish to thank the Village of Ridgewood and especially the village manager. Without her help, this year's show would not be possible. The show is entirely filmed in all locations downtown, at the high school, at the Shell, and the garage, on the streets, and the park. It's really, it highlights all the really wonderful places of Ridgewood, and it also is incredibly great talent. So please visit rhsjamboree.org, and that will be scheduled to air virtual show February 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. And I know I, along with Councilwoman Perrin, are a longtime jamboreers. So we encourage everyone to visit rhsjamboree.org and watch the show. Let's see if there's anything else. Oh, and I hope I'm going to say this right. Was it Monday evening? We did the grand opening for Fistacci. Did I say it right? Good. Pam shaking her head. Lorraine shaking her head. It's all good. Fistacci is on Wilsey Square. It's a kind of, what will we call that? Nuts and mixed nuts and homemade chocolates. I know that Councilwoman Perrin indulged in the chocolates. I indulge in the mixed nuts. The hot wasabi is now my favorite. I encourage everyone to go visit Fistacci and support our local businesses. And with that, we will go on to our meeting.
Okay, our discussion items under Ridgewood Water is awarding the contract for laboratory analysis services. This is an annual contract. One bid specification was picked up with one bid being received. It was from Aqua Protech Labs of Fairfield, New Jersey. The bid price is actually a reduction from last year's pricing. And Aqua Protech has performed successfully for the past 7 years for Ridgewood Water. And the funding for this is in the 2021 water utility operating budget.
Questions, comments, just jump in. Okay.
Next item is an annual resolution that sets the interest rates for water accounts that are delinquent. It's the same amount charged for non-payment of taxes, which is 8% per annum on the first $1,500 and 18% per annum on the balance over $1,500 for all. And then for all bills in excess of $50, there's a 30-day grace period, and any delinquency in excess of $10,000 is 6% per annum penalty. The next item is also an annual resolution which indicates the total amount of tax paid on Ridgewood Water-owned land based on the assessed value of the land. This amount is paid as an administrative maintenance fee to the Village of Ridgewood. And the last item under Ridgewood Water is that they want to reactivate the ravine well and pumping the yield from the Mar test well to the ravine treatment facility. The ravine well is located at 451 Goffel Road in Ridgewood, and in 2018, Ridgewood Water purchased the residential home and property located on the lot fronting the well house at 451 Goffel Road. The purchase was made to facilitate the installation of treatment for the ravine well and Mar well. In 2020, Ridgewood Water completed a PFAS treatment feasibility study, and they recommend prioritizing this project so the ravine well can be placed back into service and meet the requirements of the prior US EPA consent order. The bond ordinance is for $602,000, and it's to fund the design of the new treatment facility. And the new treatment facility will provide 1 million gallons per day of treated water into the system that is currently inactive and unavailable. I do have Mr. Calby here in case you have any questions or you want additional information.
Questions?
I'm just curious about that first resolution. with the interest and penalties.
It's set by
Uh,
statute.
Pardon?
It's set by statute.
Oh, okay. Because I was wondering what it was last year, but if it's set by statute, fine.
Every year it's the same.
Bernadette, did you have a question? I thought you raised your hand.
Yeah, so what is the timing on the well in terms of when it would be up and running?
Current schedule, we anticipate 2 years, about a year of design and then a year of construction.
Okay.
All in total, it's going to be about a $3 million project.
Okay.
So this authorization is just for the design and the construction administration. We kind of pushed it ahead of this year's capital in the hopes of getting started sooner than later.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Our next category is parking. We have grab and go parking spaces. I know Mayor Knutson is going to speak to this, right?
Yeah, and I'm just going to toss this right over to the deputy mayor because
Okay.
this is his baby here. I just did the drawing.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, it seems there's some businesses on South Broad Street are having some difficulty with parking, and there's a lot of parking issues there. And I know Sook has taken up a lot of parking spots with the setup they have outside on the street. And I was just interested in gauging the council's opinion to see if there's any interest in kind of relooking at this. Maybe we could do a grab and go spot. I was thinking maybe the first spot on Hudson Street on the garage side. People kind of pull in there pretty easy. Restaurants in that area, Pearl, Bamboo House, Sook. If somebody wants to do grab and go at Sook or anybody kind of in that vicinity would pretty much be able to get over there. I think it would probably be the easiest since they really couldn't use the Sook side. And it might be difficult to use the garage. That might be the best option for some of those businesses in that area. So I was just trying to see if there was any interest in doing that, and what could be done to offer some relief to some of those restaurants and businesses up there.
So Pam, maybe you want to add to that because I know you and I spoke about this briefly.
Yes, I think that would be interesting, not only for the businesses on South Broad, but also for those on Prospect, the Village Green, Asian Grill. They have pickups and they have no place for their customers to stop and get the grab and go. So I think it would be interesting. I don't know who would sponsor it, but if it's just designating, we can always see if anyone wants to sponsor it, they can. But I would like to hear from Sergeant Chuck as to whether it's safe enough. This is that spot is parallel parking, not angled parking. So long as it's safe, I'd be in favor.
Right. Yeah, we could designate it, and then if the businesses wanted to get together, however they could figure it out. But that would be on them. But as long as we designated it and it was there, then maybe they could figure it out. And of course, I'd like to hear what Sergeant Chuck has to say too. I mean, I think it would probably be one of the safer options in the area because you're still kind of traveling in that direction. You could pull into that last spot there and then pull right out and go, up or down Broad.
So I wanted to ask a quick question because obviously the picture from Google Earth or whatever it is I did is not current. So I don't. So I think the first spot is pretty much in the same space, right? I don't know.
I think so.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, because this has to be so far
So if
back.
you did that first spot, that would it wouldn't be parallel parking. So we were just talking about the first spot or two spots. I'm asking that question.
I think start with one.
Well, we could designate the two, but start with the first one, right? If we wanted to.
I have a question for Pam though, because I thought when we were doing the grab and go originally, I know that, I had asked for a spot on South Broad, but I thought Pam came back and said nobody was interested.
That's what I heard from Paul Vagianos because he pulled the businesses on South Broad. And the most active one is Sook. there generally, and they were more interested in having a corral than having a grab and go spot.
Mike, did any businesses like approach you and say they wanted a grab and go?
Well, I've had discussions with Bamboo House, and the large majority of their business is pick up and go, and
Right.
with having their corral out there in all those spaces, it was already a tough spot to begin with, because you're that one's kind of located right there in between the three crosswalks. So you have both going across Broad Street, and then the other one going across Hudson, and then you have the yellow line where nobody could park, and you can still park there anyway because it's the most convenient to pick up their food, and they shouldn't. So to kind of alleviate that issue and help out some of the other businesses that maybe Paul Vagianos didn't talk to, I think it would be good to try and start with maybe that first space on Hudson Street, because again, it's kind of easy in, easy out, and I think it might be one of the best options in that area.
Okay. No, I mean, I think that area needs a grab and go. I just, originally we had heard that the businesses weren't interested, but maybe we need to check around again.
Mm-hmm.
Just a question, Pam, for Councilwoman Perrin. Is it something that maybe the members of CB DAC should be surveying the area businesses? Because that's like, if you were there, it would be your village representative. So you're asking, I don't know if that's beneficial to having that face in there.
Sure, we can go door to door, no problem.
That'd be
Yeah.
helpful. Okay.
So,
But maybe in the meantime, what we could do is designate the space anyway. And again, if nobody sponsors it, then it wouldn't be a grab and go space. But if it was already designated, and I guess there was no interest, then maybe you wouldn't need it. But if there was an interest, you'd be able to move right into that without kind of surveying everybody and then finding out whether or not there's enough interest. And then, because it doesn't really cost us anything, it's just kind of passing paperwork here at the council to designate the spot. And then if we do have interest, we could sell the spot and get a little bit of revenue and help the businesses out. But if there is no interest, there's no real cost. So it's no harm, no foul.
Yeah, so what was the point of this? I think that was the point of this conversation tonight, was at least get the ball rolling on designating the first one or two spaces. And this way, if we get one sponsor or two sponsors, we're ready to just do the sponsorship and move on it. Go ahead, Bernadette.
So I had the unlucky occurrence of my kid's dentist is on South Broad. And so I was coming down Broad to drop them at their dentist. And there was a car parked illegally in front of Stuck. Mm-hmm. And there was a car parked illegally in front of the wine cellar. So I came up and was going straight. So I was stopped because the car that was parked illegally in front of the wine cellar there was not parked at the side of the road. They pretty much parked in the lane. So there was a car coming in the other direction that stopped. And then a car pulled out behind me from Hudson. And when I tell you, none of us could move. It was a mess. So I was, rolled my window down and was waving to the person saying, you have to move on. Like, you've got 5 cars stuck behind you. And they wouldn't move. They literally wouldn't move. We had to all wait because none of us could move, or we would have backed into the traffic behind us until the person came out, got in the car, and then that one drove off. So it was literally a log jam for about 5 minutes.
And were they?
Where did that person come out of?
Get out of my car, but then I was like, you know what? I don't want to leave my car, in the middle of the street. But it was a mess. So
were they food or something?
Yeah, everybody's picking stuff up.
Right.
But so I don't think we're going to eliminate that bad behavior by putting the grab and goes on Hudson. I think when Councilwoman Reynolds was talking about having it on Broad, I think if it's on Broad, and again, you'd have to talk to Jay Chuck, if it's on Broad, then people will know it's there, because I don't think as many people are coming on Hudson. Like, how would we educate them on this one? Because I still think people are going to park illegally in front of stuff. and then they're gonna, maybe park illegally continuing on. It was a mess when I was there.
Well, I would say that would be on the business. So if somebody called and ordered food and said, I wanted to pick it up, then on that telephone call, the business could say, well, we have this convenient grab and go spot. It's located on Hudson Street, right next to the garage. You could just pull in, park there, and we'll run out and give it to you. So it's, I don't think they'd have to drive around and look for it. I think it was just, another sentence or two from the business owner that says, hey, by the way, when you come pick up your food, there's a spot for it.
Yeah.
It always strikes me that it's one of the most active illegal parking spots in the village.
Oh, by far.
Not just the most active, but it's like the worst spot for it too, because it's so tight right there in that intersection, and you just can't turn. And I don't know how many times I've seen people park illegally right in the crosswalk out there.
And they were in the, yep.
Yeah, it's always an issue. And I know that we started with some enforcement, and maybe, that's another thing that needs to be re-upped and started up again, because the only way to at least stop it is to make sure that people know we're going to enforce, and then supplement it with the grab and go. But I don't know the answer. I mean, I got to admit that if I were going to pick up at Bamboo House or anywhere else along there, I probably would make the left off of Ridgewood Ave and be on that side of the road, because there's really not much parking or any parking on the other side. And a lot of times actually on the other side, the trucks park illegally because they're doing deliveries. So I don't know what the answer is. Maybe we should be looking at Broad on the just farther south. Maybe where there's parking spaces are usually empty anyway. Close to Cafe 37, right? Aren't there by Cafe 37, there's typical spaces. So maybe.
Then you're gonna have people doing illegal U-turns to park.
They do illegal U-turns too all the time downtown.
That's
That's
true.
another thing. It's crazy.
So maybe since Sergeant Chuck is here, we could hear from him and what his thoughts are on this spot.
That was a lot.
A lot to unpack. There you go.
Well, let's start with the grab and go spots. Certainly, if you guys think that is going to benefit the community, we have ample parking right now because downtown's pretty wide open, so we could certainly take advantage of those. Again, our personal belief is we want to keep away from forcing a parallel parking action when possible. So if you're asking me Broad Street or Hudson Street's the better answer. I believe there's 2 parking spots on the left that you pretty much you're either going to go nose in, or you have a huge yellow zone in front of you and it's a quick back in, right? So those are definitely shorter, easier actions than someone on Broad Street trying to stop right next to the Sook Dining. They're looking at those delicious croissants, they're looking at the weird bubble, and it's starting to slow them down. So we want to stay away from that. Secondly, to your guys' point, I think the restaurants there have such strong customer base that those customers are going to immediately realize that there is the free grab and go spots on Hudson Street. So I think that even though it's a little offline from some of the other spots, I think it will be used pretty well. So again, that leads us towards Hudson Street. I agree with putting parking spots going north on Broad Street, although not the worst parking area to do it in. Again, I think it'll encourage a lot of U-turns right in the middle of the road, and then that'll back everything up. Also, as far as safety, I'm sure you guys have seen that we started putting cones out. The parking enforcement guys, we had a conversation about the illegal parking that's going on uptown, and I use a word littered because first we were trying to be nice and just put a couple cones out in yellow zones, and those were a little more of a suggestion than anything. And so we started putting the cones out closer, and we've seen that if people really want to illegally park, they're going to work hard at it, which I think Ms. Walsh has seen. Where literally they're nosing in between the cones. Our enforcement guys are great. they first try to educate people. Hey, if you're in the car, let's get you moving. Let's find you a different spot to use. And, you know, if it's the car's vacant, obviously they're ticketing it. So that's certainly something that we're paying attention to. I think the cones have had a good response. Are we at 100% there? Absolutely not. But are we doing way better? I believe so. That intersection is kind of dark though. So I have a great solution. It's something that the engineering and signal and the Traffic Safety Bureau has been working on. I don't know if you guys have noticed. Dylan, can you pop those pictures up for me real quick?
Yep.
So we have been doing, I call Operation Light Up. We've been adding strong directional lightings downtown. So here is the new lighting at East Ridgewood and Broad Street. You probably couldn't have seen that guy from my cell phone picture about 2 weeks ago. Keep flipping, Dylan.
Okay. Oop. I had to go through pictures. On.
So you can see the picture. You can see the actual two lights. So there's only two lights lighting up this entire intersection. See how much we can see that entire crosswalk? You can see the car. You can see the people across the street. Dylan, next one, please. Here I am on the other side of the street. So now you can see how far that light is really going. This is a pretty big intersection. It's certainly bigger than the intersection that we're talking about right now. Dylan, I think I got one more for you. Yep. So, you know, even on my cell phone picture, you guys can see there's a car stopped. We have people crossing the street. The conspicuously is really great here. We're seeing a lot more. And I think that'll make the intersection a lot safer. So if we do these grab and go spots and we're encouraging people to cross that street there, I certainly think that this would be a good addition. These are not super expensive. They're about $500 each, $600 each. And we do have the ability to mount those and take advantage of those on a pole. So that's certainly something I think that we should add if we're going to do this, especially because I see this probably being a little more long term than not, since usage of the parking space is going to probably be there for pretty long.
Yeah.
I think I hit all the questions. Is there one still floating around?
I just had a question. When you said the spots on Hudson Street, you said the ones on the left. Did you mean on the north side of the street or the south side of the street when you said left?
I believe the south side where the Knights of Columbus is.
So you think that would be the better grab and go spot? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah.
So, or should it be, instead of doing both on the same side, on the north side of the street, what if we did one on the north and one on the south, just opposite each other? Does that make sense to you?
So we could certainly do that. Again, pairs are visually easier to see, and we don't have to do 95 signs in two different spots.
Right. So again, you're saying on the south, the Knights of Columbus side is better to do them.
Yeah, because there's a large yellow zone in front of it, in front of those spots, and you have the driveway behind the spots. So it's very natural driving into it. Except
for one thing, and I'm going to ask this question because that left side on the south side of the street, if you're in that spot, you're going right into the left turn lane. So does that cause a conflict? Because in my mind, if I'm on the north side of the street and I go forward, I have more time to actually get into the left lane to make that left turn. But if I'm in the left turn, I have to cross anybody in front that's heading into that left lane. I have to cross past them. It's like a conflict.
I understand what you're saying. I think it's potato there. And the volume on that road is traditionally not that big. So trying to sneak across to the right turn lane is not going to be as dramatic of an issue. I mean, if we were doing that on Chestnut Street or East Ridgewood Ave or Oak Street, I would say absolutely not. Yeah, you're right. But again, we could do 2 spots on the right, 2 spots on the left.
So let me ask another question, because most of the restaurants are north of the intersection, north of the corner of. Most of the restaurants are north of that corner, right? So what if we put them on the south side, we're actually causing pedestrians to make 2 crossing movements as opposed to just 1. Does that concern you?
No, so they're not crossing twice. Let's say they just cross Broad Street, right? And then they're walking on the sidewalk on Broad Street. Secondly, the north crosswalk of that intersection goes right into the Sook area. So we're actually walking them into a view obstruction.
No,
So if they're coming back,
I'm sorry, I misspoke. I meant not that there were 2 crossing. There were 2. If we keep it on the north side of the street and somebody is going to businesses on the east side of Broad, on the east side of South Broad, then they don't have to cross at all. And if somebody's going to businesses on the north side of Broad, I'm sorry, the west side of Broad, they only have to cross then once. So it leaves less pedestrian conflict to me.
So I'm more concerned about crossing Broad Street than I am about crossing Hudson Street. Okay. Crossing Hudson Street is not an issue. The volume's not there. If we add these lights, it's going to be plenty bright. And if we're crossing on the north side, you're crossing with a view obstruction in mind. Because, you have the barriers there, you have the whole set up. So when those people cross the street back, they are walking into the street a couple feet, about 10 feet already, with a view obstruction.
That's clear.
So.
Okay.
Can I ask, where is the crosswalk on the garage side or on the Knights of Columbus side?
Both.
It's on both.
Oh, there's 2. Okay. All right.
So just tell us which again, I guess everybody
He
counts.
wants the Knights of Columbus side, I think.
So I'm just asking everyone else what they want, because we have to put this into an ordinance and then get that to designate. So I don't know if Mike or Pam have an opinion about it.
No, I would say, go with what Sergeant Chuck says, because I guess either side of Hudson Street, again, like he says, the volume isn't there. So, if people have to go across Broad Street, they're doing that anyway, or they have to go across Broad Street. But, whatever is the safest in his opinion, since, he's the expert really down there, I would defer to that.
Okay. All right. Okay, good.
Okay, so that's what we'll do. So
I'm just a little concerned about these lights that you're talking about. They seem to be very, very bright. You're talking about doing them at the intersection of Ridgewood and Broad Street and at Hudson and Broad?
Those photos that we showed you, they are already there. And we put them at Ridgewood and Broad. We put them at Ridgewood and Chestnut and Prospect Street. And we put them over at Ridgewood and Oak Street. Tremendous improvements. They look bright because I made the camera get into the view on purpose so we could see how bright they are, but they're actually aimed down. So they're not like blinding people because they're pretty high. So we would like to add a set of those lights at this intersection where we've actually had safety issues before. So this is certainly, if we're going to encourage crossing there, I definitely think we should add them no matter what. What do you guys think?
And what period of time would it be prorated to run concurrent with the 6-month plan that we got going now?
I think that's what we should do. I don't think we should do it longer than what we have planned right now.
So we're what, 3 months into this? Something like that.
Yeah, we'll prorate it.
Okay. This way it's all the same on the same schedule, right?
Right.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Okay. Plus, I think that those bright lights at that intersection will be good once people use the garage more, because then it'll allow them, coming and going from the garage to be seen as well. We have had pedestrian and car conflicts at that intersection several times. The only thing I wanted to ask about was enforcement of that crosswalk area. I know that you are out there doing that. I guess we just have to be vigilant in that area.
Yep, we'll still stay on top of it.
Okay. All right. So the next item is under budget, interest rate for delinquent taxes and non-payment of other municipal liens. This again is the annual resolution for property taxes and other municipal liens, same amount of interest, same amounts that it's based on. Again, it's by statute. In this case, it's a 10-day grace period. The next item is for interest rate for other significant sewer discharger fees. Again, it's the same percentages, and it's a 30-day grace period in this case. The next one is the new leasing and maintenance program for police vehicles. We've had leasing of police vehicles through Enterprise over the past 6 years. We've leased 5 administrative and detective cars, and we'd like to continue with the program. We'll continue with the leasing of 5 administrative and detective vehicles. It's saved us over $140,000 in costs over the last 3 years. Instead of purchasing the vehicles, we continue with equity lease agreements, where at the end of the term, we return the cars back to Enterprise. They sell them in open auction, and we get a large percentage of the profits. When we return our current cars, we'll net at least $2,000 per car. In 2017, when we traded in the old cars, we actually brought in $21,000. We're paying a fraction of the original cost of the vehicle while keeping the car in service for the same amount of time. The second part is to utilize the service agreement. They'll pay for all services needed on the vehicles for a monthly fee. Again, paying for the service with this program saved us about 80% of the estimated costs incurred by fleet services for the village for a car that we normally service. We've also been able to extend this to a Tahoe, which is not a pursuit rated vehicle, with great results and return on our investment. So it's now available. This leasing is now available under Sourcewell. It's a streamlined process where we can initiate the leasing and return of the cars. This year, they're hoping to replace the detective and administration cars with 3 midsize SUV, 2 Durango, and a Jeep Cherokee, a Subaru Legacy, and a Dodge van. They're similar to the ones that we currently have. Estimated yearly cost for these 5 vehicles plus 1 extra vehicle for the service contract is $41,000. If we were to purchase these same vehicles, we would need about $191,000. So Sergeant Chuck, I know, has been in charge of this vehicle leasing from the beginning. So if you have any questions for him, he's available.
Anyone, questions?
Yes. I have some idea of what a detective car would be, but what is an administrative car?
So the administrative cars are assigned to captain staffing, and the chief staffing.
Staffing? Like who?
Like the chief.
Me, like the captains.
Oh, no, I thought I maybe I misheard you. I thought you meant there's other staffing. Okay.
Okay.
All right, so the next one is exciting. This is about our e-ticketing. Ridgewood Police Department have been using Mobizen's TicketWorks program for e-ticket purposes for the last 2 years, and we've been working with them on this project since 2015. The application, TicketWorks, has been built for the Ridgewood Police Department by the department with law enforcement in mind. This application was built from the ground up using input from our police officers who use it daily. They use the program in the police vehicles, desktop computers, and on parking enforcement cell phones. Chief Lucky is going to summarize the positive aspects of this application. I will give you a brief history of the various approvals that had to be obtained through this process. It has been a journey, certainly, and it's taken a long time to get to this point, but it's very exciting that it's now here. So Chief Lucky, if you would please.
So I can't say enough, as Heather said, this has been a long journey. And Jay and Dylan will both back that up. Every step in this process took time, in part because we had to work with the state and we had to work with the administrative office of the courts. And literally just getting that permission took a lot of hoops to jump through. The company Mobizen that we've been working with has been incredibly responsive to us every step of the way. Them as a company, they have this platform in other states, but it didn't exist in New Jersey yet. So as Heather said, this was really built by us and for us for ease of law enforcement use. They have a back office portion of it called Ticket Works, which really allows officers, the court, and the supervisors to be able to look at the data in a variety of ways. It prints from the cars and from the handheld cell phones that the parking enforcement officers use, in addition to being able to print in headquarters. They make it nice and easy. We can scan a driver's license and it auto-populates. And we actually have them working right now with another one of our vendors so that the information can feed from their system right into our reporting system, which again is another ease step for the officers. The stage we're at right now, what we want to do is sign a contract with them regarding hosting of their services, which means we become home base, and as they sell their product to other departments, they go through our server because we already have all of the proper permissions and everything set up to have the communications through the AOC. So it gives them the benefit of sales, and we get the benefit of hosting contract services.
So basically, that's what we would do. We would set up a shared services agreement to host. And Dylan, maybe you could explain. I know that they have to buy their own equipment, correct? The individual towns will have to buy their own equipment.
Yeah, they would buy their own portable handheld computers and printers, but they would connect to our server as the host.
So which really just means all of the communication when we're inputting the information and getting the driver information, verifying that people have the right licenses so that all the information is correct on the tickets, that all goes back and forth with the administrative office of the courts. We just don't ever see it because it's all through the computer.
Does Ridgewood benefit financially at all?
Yes.
Like, you know, any estimates?
What is
it like a percentage of each ticket, or I mean, how does it work?
I believe it was a per device fee.
Per device fee, right?
Yeah. And it would be, I think it was, I don't know if it was monthly or yearly. I forget what the contract stated.
There's the cost to set up the device and then the maintenance aspect of being hooked up to our server. And it's hard to have a guesstimate of it because it is a matter of there are many towns that have been waiting for this type of technology from another vendor. So we think that it will be fairly easy to get additional towns on board with it. But that estimate is based on how many towns sign up.
Okay.
I have two questions. Could our code enforcer use this?
So we're actually working with them right now to input our ordinances. And if they can input the ordinances, there may be another way to make a transition. I don't know if it's the same forms, but it actually is something that we could look at down the line.
Okay. And then under the benefits of Ticket Works, one of them, it says responsive customer service whenever issues arise. Can you give us an example of what kind of issue could arise that Movizent would help with?
So again, since this was built from scratch, we've had numerous issues. Everything from changing a platform because newer technology has come out, so they have to fix the back end of their program in order to make that happen, to running into the fact that it was like a Wisconsin driver's license that just didn't exist in the system because there was a read of it, or a new make and model of a vehicle that comes out from the AOC code that until we run into it as an issue, you don't know it, but they are very responsive to it. They have a very quick turnaround rate, and they are willing to handle whatever it is that we throw at them. We have a great working relationship with this company.
I don't know how far along the agreement is. There are just some typos and incorrect dates and such on it. So I'll highlight them and send it back to Heather. I don't know who did this.
I'm
Yeah,
gonna
I saw
say-
some too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I don't know, Pam, you're probably picking up on some of them that I'm picking up on.
Yeah.
But-
Please send them to me. This has been an ongoing, process. And so maybe this is, a previous iteration of the contract, but I know Mr. Rogers has reviewed it several times and has given his blessing to the contract. So.
Okay, I'll just send them in.
For content, everybody knows I'm the worst typist and speller, but certainly from a content standpoint and working with it for the purposes of what it's designed to do as being the host, it's a good form.
Yeah, no, I'm not, I'm just saying,
Yeah, please let me have them. That would be helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Our next one is also related to the police department. It's amendment to the towing ordinance and fee schedule. It enables the police department to have approved tow operators available for when they are in need and at established rates. The village's fee structure for towing has not been updated in over 5 years. So both Sergeant Chuck and Officer Torino, I know, worked on this. So I'll turn it over to Sergeant Chuck.
Yeah, I can't take any credit for this. Officer Torino certainly took care of this whole thing. Long story short, Heather's right. We haven't really updated this in a long time, and we lost a lot of keeping on top of it. So some of the highlights of the changes are we updated and organized the application structure for the towers. Obviously, our fees were not up to par. They were probably up to par with 80s, so we upgraded those a little bit. The big thing, and when I say fees, I mean our fees to the towing, to the towers for applying and making sure that they're in compliance. As far as towing fees, so the state put out a huge change in the towing fees this year, and it was based on the Parkway and Turnpike. So if anyone's been on the Parkway and Turnpike, you know that you're giving up half of your salary to get a tow out of there. So Officer Torino really evaluated what our most common calls for service in regards to towing are. And, we certainly adjusted the pay structure there, but I think something that's a little more responsible to the community. And then the not everyday occurrences, like, I don't know, let's say a huge backhoe falls on the highway, just for argument's sake. Those pay structures are going to be in line with the state structures. So that's the real big changes. I know it's a lot to look at. It's kind of the highlights. Any questions?
What's a decoupling fee?
I'm sorry.
What's a decoupling fee?
So that's basically when there's an attachment to the machines and you have to let go. Mostly that's involved with large trucks where they have to take apart the drive shafts and stuff.
Okay.
So, and I want to thank Mr. Rudisauer also for putting it into the proper format so that it can amend our current towing ordinance. Any other questions? Okay.
Looks reasonable.
Okay. Our next item is sewer fees for significant sewer dischargers. This establishes a fee structure based upon equivalent dwelling units for commercial, industrial, and nonprofit who have significant sewer discharges. The rate has been set at $4.27 per 1,000 gallons of flow in excess of 109,500 gallons per year, as measured by water meter consumption during the 2 winter quarters. Nonprofits are billed from the first gallon of water they consume. The recommendation is to leave it at $4.27 per 1,000 gallons for 2021. Okay. The next item is under policy, and this is a pledge supporting the New Jersey Wildlife Action Plan. This is something that we have passed in the adopted in the past. Is for our Sustainable Jersey application, and it's a comprehensive action agenda for the conservation of native wildlife, the restoration of important lands and water, and public education targeting the needs of rare wildlife in New Jersey. And I know Councilman Seaton would like to speak to this as well.
Sure, thank you, Heather. And this, I believe I mentioned it in the previous council report, is the first of some of the resolutions that we're gonna have to start passing for this year's delayed Sustainable Jersey application for silver certification. So as Heather said, it was passed in the past, it was passed previously, and it just kind of notes a lot of things that, you know, we're already doing, and we have lost a bunch of points through Sustainable Jersey, so we really need the points.
Okay.
It's a long word. It's a long document. Big document, right? Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Okay. Did anyone have any other questions? Okay. The next one is the required amendments to the village's stormwater management regulations. The New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection issued requirements that communities amend their ordinance governing stormwater protection. The current regulations were adopted on and had an effective date of February 6, 2007. So an ordinance incorporating the NJDEP's requirements went to the planning board, as was mentioned previously, and now is coming to the village council. The ordinance has been prepared by the village planner, Mary Ann Bucci Carter, with input from Mr. Ruttersauser, and the planning board has recommended that the village council adopt the ordinance. We are on a somewhat tight timeline because they do want them adopted by March. So we would have to introduce these at our February meeting and adopt them in March.
Any questions on that? All right.
Okay. So the next item is street opening permit regulations. Mr. Ruttersauser had noticed in the code that a village department can perform work in the public right-of-way without any need to notify the village's public works inspector, who's responsible for backfill settlement, patch paving, final surface restoration, and things like that. Mr. Ruttersauser is concerned that this creates a problem as it removes the engineering division's oversight to track these excavations in the street. It's been an issue in litigation matters and determining the entity who's responsible, and also the excavation's backfill materials settle and cause a depression or final pavement restoration is not completed. So this proposed ordinance would require notification by village departments to the engineering division of a street opening permit process. So Mr. Ruttersauser, did you want to add anything?
You pretty much summed it up, but it is been a problem with a recent litigation that I've been working with the village attorney on, where we had a claim against the village, and the question came up what entities had worked in that area most recently and whether they could be enjoined. That led to research in the code and the realization that if a village department excavates in the street, we may have no way of knowing that they had done that work, and that could possibly diminish our defense.
Okay.
Any questions? Anyone?
The next item is authorizing the establishment of government energy aggregation program. As you know, we had a presentation earlier, a previous council meeting, And this is based on that presentation. I know Councilwoman Perrin is going to speak to it again as well.
Yes, just to recap what Gable Associates presented to us, the idea is sort of twofold. One, that by grouping together our residents, we would be able to get a better price for energy. And also that by getting renewable energy and increasing the amount of renewable energy that residents purchase, we create more demand for wind, solar, hydroelectric, and we let the producers know this is what we want, and it expands the industry for renewables. Basically, all we have to do is pass an ordinance and then decide who we would want as a consultant. We don't have to pay the consultant. It is the supplier of the electricity that would pay the consultant. And that only happens if we decide we like a contract. Many towns in New Jersey have tried this and been able to double the amount of renewable energy that their residents purchase. It is, in the first instance, an opt-out program. And by that, I mean everybody would be included except for those households that are ineligible because they already have a third-party supplier of renewable energy, or they have solar panels on their house. But everybody else would be initially deemed eligible and included. We would have to have an education period. We would have to have public meetings and things like that to educate the public. But also, we would send out a mailing before it goes into effect to say, look, if you want to opt out, fine, you can stay with PSE&G. And anytime during the contract, and the contract is, once you get one, is limited to 24 months. It can be less than that, but it can't be more than 24 months. And so people can make a decision as to whether they want to be in or out. And there's also the possibility of joining with other towns that are doing this. So for instance, there are 5 towns in Essex County that have joined together. Maplewood is their lead agent, and Glen Rock is about to join in with them. Their contract expired in December of 2020, and so they're looking for their next generation of contract. And so you have to, if you want to do this, you do have to increase the amount of renewable energy that you're already getting from PSE&G. And PSE&G right now, their content, their deliverable is 23%. So we might want to double that. Glen Rock went for 100% renewable when they first got a contract. And now they're changing their focus. They want to go in with this other group in Essex County. Everything remains the same in terms of billing. You still get a bill from PSE&G. If anything goes wrong, if there's an outage or there's a wire down, you call PSE&G. They are still the delivery mechanism. They're just not the supplier. We would be looking for a third-party supplier. And as was mentioned, sometimes the first time you go out to bid, you don't like what you see. So you can wait until the market looks good for you. And sometimes it's a little difficult to compare because the contract would be for a fixed price, whereas PSE&G's price fluctuates. So you're not guaranteed a better price, but the experience of most of these towns is that they have had a modest savings for households that remain in the program, in the aggregation. I do have here tonight Christine Amundsen, who's one of our energy specialists on the green team. She is also the energy czar, I guess, czarina for the Board of Ed. And if you have special, very particular questions that I can't answer, I think Christine can. Oh, and did I forget to say that as Bob Upton mentioned, he's the chair of Green Ridgewood. As he mentioned in public comments, Green Ridgewood does recommend that we try this. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. So if you have any questions, let's discuss it.
I don't have a question. I just want to say hi to Christine. Christine,
She's muted.
you're muted. Oh, you're muted, Christine. Is she still muted?
Okay,
There you go.
I'm good now. Thank you.
Say hello. We haven't seen you in ages, right? Okay.
Right. Nice to see everyone and hear all the activities that you're addressing. I just want to say at the outset is I urge the council to consider this proposal because there's really no risk at this point. You know, once proposals, once bids come in, that's when, you know, everything gets looked at and a hard decision would have to be made. But at this stage, again, there's no direct cost to the village. There's not even an indirect cost right now. And Gable Associates is a great company to work with. We've worked with them on the school district side for gas supply contracts. And many municipalities are already getting their energy via a third-party supplier, their energy supply. And our school district right now is using a third-party supplier. So there, you know, risk is not an issue, I think.
Yeah. In fact, our village uses a third-party supplier, I believe.
Yes.
And the beauty of this also is for individual residents, this is a little safer because yes, they can go for a third-party supplier. We get these things in the mail all the time, but it's hard to opt out. You can't, you know, sometimes there'll be a penalty under those circumstances. Also, we have the benefit of our village attorney looking things over. So it's more vetted.
And we're doing something for the environment. I mean, that's why, I mean, it's one of the goals of Green Ridgewood to be helping to combat climate change. And by purchasing renewable or a portion of our supply being at a higher level than the standard level, we're doing good for the environment.
Okay. Thank you, Christine. All right, everyone. So I just put it out to council. Any thoughts, any questions, concerns?
So I just have a question, Pam. So say we go ahead, we do this, we find a contract we like, somebody's on it for 6 months, they don't like, they think that they're gonna get a better deal with PSE&G. They can opt out at any point during the contract?
At any time, yes.
Bernadette, did you have your hand?
So I have a question about PSE&G because I'm imagining that this is not something that they're going to be pleased about. Do you think that they're going to kind of mount a counter campaign to stay with PSE&G? And how would that impact our message? If we're putting the message out to everybody's going to be included and then you have to opt out. So is there going to be a kind of a challenge between PSE&G, the message they may put out and the message that we may put out? So how are we going to navigate that?
I don't think that has actually come to pass. What's been happening actually is that PSE&G has been inching up their content of renewable energy. 2 years ago, They were providing 21% of their supply was renewable energy, and now it's 23. So I think they see the writing on the wall.
But might they be a bidder then, is I guess my question.
They're only supply, they're only delivery. They don't supply.
They don't have any other contracts where they would, that they've already enjoined that
I
they're
don't
not
believe
partners
so.
with some other source to.
I think they're out of the supply business. Isn't that true?
No, they still have a small amount, but that's not their main focus. Energy's been deregulated for decades now. And so there's not an issue where PSE&G is competing with the suppliers. They're not going to hold on to customers in that way.
Okay.
Has anybody spoke to anyone at Glen Rock that could tell you, are they happy with what they chose for their?
They had a hub meeting last night and I was on it. They were telling us about where they stand with, that's how I know that they are interested in going in with the Essex County Alliance. They came and presented to Green Ridgewood about a year ago, and I speak with them pretty frequently.
So they're happy with, and are their residents happy? I mean, I find it strange that everybody's in until you opt out. And there's going to be many, many people that we will not be able to reach. And then when they get their first bill and it looks different, I have to assume it's going to look different.
I believe it was tried as an opt-in program and it didn't work.
Right, because a lot of people aren't going to opt in for something they're unfamiliar with.
Could I mention, Lorraine?
I just say for the, I'm sorry, Christine, just just have this conversation amongst us, if you don't mind. I just want to say this. I'm if somebody opts me into something and I'm so busy and I now have to do something to opt out, I'm going to be really mad at the person who opted me in and made me have to take those steps to opt out because I'm so busy that it would be one more thing I had to do or think about. So I'm too am concerned about the blanket opt-in. And I will say that as somebody who has changed my supplier on numerous occasions, I don't recall ever seeing anything different on my bill. My bill looked exactly the same. It's just the bill looks the same. But I would be concerned that two things that concern me is that I have to take some action or steps or do something to opt out. And the other thing that concerns me is the comment that necessarily the rates could be higher. And, people, I don't know what that means. I don't know by what percentage higher. Does it mean rates skyrocket? I don't know. But I'm concerned that, we're looking at people who are really strapped, and that if we do something that causes them to have to take a step to opt out or cost them more money, I don't think that that's a benefit to the community at large. I did want to ask the village manager, or I guess somebody, a question. Is it Gable and Associates did the presentation? Did they ever give us their schedule did we request additional information from them? Because I don't remember seeing that.
I don't remember requesting additional information.
I thought we requested a schedule of rates because because of this, I went online to compare rates and PSE&G was actually lower than everyone. So I did my own little analysis and comparison. It was fairly quick and easy to get that information. But I thought we did ask for some additional information, including the schedule of rates that they had secured for other municipalities. And I also find it interesting that Glen Rock is having to go into, was it Maplewood or Middlesex County? Wherever.
Essex.
Yeah, Essex County, because they didn't have the buying power, evidently, to negotiate a good rate. They didn't have that power, that ability.
Well, that's where the aggregation comes in.
Right, I understand. The aggregation comes in when you take everyone in the village and opt them in. That's also an aggregation, right?
Both ways, yes.
Right. So the first aggregation is, in fairness, the aggregation isn't that we're going into other municipalities as buying power. The sell and the pitch that was made here was the aggregation is with village residents as a unified purchasing power. So, but it's interesting that Glen Rock didn't have the ability to facilitate that level of purchasing power that they have to now by move to another larger organization who is now doing the bidding on their behalf. So I just throw that out there. I have some serious concerns myself. But go ahead. I thought, Lorraine, did you have another question?
No, I would like to, I think we should be able to talk to Glen Rock and see exactly, why they decided to go in a different direction. Were they unhappy with what they chose?
I can certainly have Ken Jones come speak to the council if you'd like to hear from him directly. He was intimately involved in setting up they call it the deal in the past contract in Glen Rock. Also, they were very ambitious with their setup in that they wanted 100% renewable energy. You can get a much more economical package if you're not so ambitious and you look for maybe doubling the renewable energy that you're already getting to, say, 46% or 45%. Then you have more choice.
So
So
we know that the percentage of renewable energy increases the cost to the consumer. So that on that end is going to cost our residents more. So in all likelihood, I'm going to speculate here that Glen Rock likely, when they did that 100% buy, caused their rates to go up. Christine's shaking her head, so I guess I'm on it. So they probably caused those rates to skyrocket because, and I guess Glen Rock people said, yeah, this isn't working for us. They probably started opting out. But that, the more content you have, the higher percentage content you have of renewable, the higher the cost.
That's what I was gonna get at. Do we know what the percentage of people that opted out in Glen Rock is?
No.
I think at one point they were at 70% participation.
That's a big out. That's a big number, actually, because
well, they may have a lot of people with solar panels and already involved in third-party contracts as well. But I'd be happy to have Ken Jones come speak to council. It's a long process, and it's not like you have to do it tomorrow.
Yeah, I think I would say that maybe we need some additional information. I think that we did ask for a rate schedule of what the rates they were able to secure in their contracts. I'm sure that we did ask for that. Am I wrong, Heather? Did we ask for something?
I think we did. I don't recall receiving it. Perhaps they said,
Okay.
I don't recall receiving
I'll
it.
follow up.
Okay.
I'll follow up. I do want to say that in taking classes with the New Jersey League of Municipalities, they also made it clear that with the New Jersey Energy Plan in place now for the state, it does behoove the towns to pursue climate action, to reduce emissions, and to preserve our environment. And we have to take the long look rather than the short look.
I think we have to do both, actually, because I think we have to be cognizant of our residents who, if we engage in something that causes added a burden of look, I'm going to say, we listen to people talk about, being in difficult conditions with the pandemic, loss of work. We see restaurants, suffering, and any added costs that have to be shouldered by businesses or residents that cause them further harm is something I'm going to take really seriously. So I have to take both the short and long-term outlook and be aware of the impact financially on our residents. So just my 2 cents. Okay. Thanks, Christine. Good seeing you.
Thank you. I thought of one answer to a question that came up, and the reason why Glen Rock would be aligning themselves with another group of towns, 4 or 5 other towns. And it's simply because Glen Rock is so small and as a town, And when you take 70% of their aggregate usage, it's not a very attractive load to the suppliers. The more you use, the larger the load, sometimes the better the price you can negotiate. So that's the reason. I think the first contract, Glenrock went out on their own. And then for the next renewal of a contract, they realized they'd be better off aligning themselves with larger towns or a group of towns so that the load would be more attractive and the price would be better.
Sure. So, okay, so we'll get some additional information and we'll bring this back. Does that make sense? Okay, great.
Yes. The next one is the Ridgecrest payment in lieu of taxes program. We charge an annual service charge instead of Ridgecrest paying property taxes. I know Councilwoman Walsh had various questions, and so hopefully she'll ask those questions and we'll have some answers.
Can I just jump in? I think I'm not sure if Rich Barkley's on in the queue.
Dylan? Okay,
Yeah.
you can let him in.
Yeah, Dylan.
Oh, you just, all right, he raised his hand. I am bringing him in.
Thanks.
Hey, Rich. So thanks for sitting through our meeting and being so patient. I hope you've learned a lot. All right, so we're up. Okay, go ahead, Bernie.
Well, so the pilot obviously is a 30-year pilot. I think the last time it was discussed was in 1983. I did have the opportunity to talk to Rich and ask some questions. I don't know if other council members had that ability as well. I wrote some notes down about our conversation, and I think, when he and I talked, I felt that maybe the public needed to have some more input into the transaction, how this all came to be, and I apologize. We as a group have only had this before us once, although I think there was some stuff going on behind the scenes before it got to the council. So that's why, when we had our first meeting, I had raised a couple of questions and got some of the answers. But I think that's where I have some questions or some concerns about the process. So maybe Rich, you can explain the one question that I asked, how it came to be that this group is purchasing Ridgecrest, because that, when we had our last meeting, it just said it was some local individuals. So maybe if you could explain that to the public.
You're muted.
Unmute, Rich.
There you go.
I don't know if you want to see me or not, but here I am. Right. So the grand kind of overview of the whole thing was that the mortgage on the property is coming to an end. And when that mortgage ends, the funding we get as a rent subsidy from HUD will also end. And that is not funding that we want to lose. So we have a affordable housing expert consultant that's worked with us for a long time, 20 plus years at Ridgecrest. We asked him, what do we do? His response was, well, most people would sell the property now. And our question was, okay, well, what does that mean and how does that work? Well, you'd find a buyer, you would sell the property. The existing nonprofit of Ridgecrest would take the proceeds and actually be able to start a charitable foundation with the money. That charitable foundation could support local charities, meaning Ridgewood, Bergen County, whatever that board decides to do with the charitable money. Then you'd have a new ownership that would come in, get a new mortgage, do some improvements on the property, get a new pilot, and the facility would continue on. So we said, okay, give us some names of people that do this? and we looked into it, and we did not get a lot of glowing reviews from those people that have done this before, meaning they've done things like cut social service programs and other programs that benefit the residents. And we said, well, what are our other options? And he said, well, you could do it yourselves. That way you would get a new mortgage, you'd keep your HUD funding, you'd still have a foundation that would support local charities. However, the people that would, instead of bringing someone in from outside of Ridgewood, you would have the new group be the people that have participated and volunteered on a strictly volunteer basis, many of them for a very long time, myself over 20 years. And that group, you certainly would know, wouldn't cut social services. We plan on doing work to the building. There's about 85 residences that have never had any work done to their kitchens or bathrooms since the building was built in the early 1980s. So we plan on renovating those kitchens and bathrooms, bringing the building up to current standards. I don't think many other people have not had any work done to their homes since 1982 or whenever it was. And that way it's a win-win. We have the foundation. Our relationship with the 40-year relationship with the village goes on. It's still managed by people that have Ridgecrest at heart and have Ridgewood at heart. And that's what we're trying to do.
Bernie, good job.
Oh, so, wait, still with me? So can I ask, how much is the new mortgage gonna be?
The new mortgage is going to be, that's still a little, our mortgage application is just going in. It's still a little bit fluid because we have to do things like get bids for 85 kitchens and 85 bathrooms. It'll be in the, I don't have the list exactly in front of me, but it's going to be in the $13 to $14 million range.
13 to 14 million. Okay. And then you mentioned that, and it says here in the agreement that Ridgecrest sought other investors for the project. Can you share with us, outside of the group that's purchasing it, who it was? Was it offered for sale on the open market, or was it only offered to this? I think you said to current or former board members.
Yeah, that was our first, again, to keep it in with people that we know have Ridgecrest at heart. That was our first offering, and we were able to raise the money. So the answer is that's where we stopped.
So if the mortgage is 14 million, then what's the overall value that you've come up with?
Well, there was 2 appraisals done. I think you have at least one of them. The building appraised at 11 million. One came in at 10 million. The other one came in at 11 million. And then there's some other things, the work to be done. The mortgage goes a little higher than that. There's also some cash involved that's in reserve, so you have to pay for all of that. So, 13 million is roughly the purchase price of the property.
So you're getting 100% financing?
No, we're putting money. We have to put money in. Again, depending on how much that final mortgage comes in, that'll be calculated by FHA.
Okay. And then, hold on, I wrote a bunch of notes down. So is a condition of that mortgage signing this pilot? Because I know that we talked and you said that the pilot doesn't expire until 2023.
Well, does it expire to 2023? The mortgage, right, would require a new pilot. They're not going to give a mortgage with knowing that the pilot would run out in a year, right? Then that would be a big unknown of the income. So yes, I'm assuming that's the condition of the new mortgage.
So it's a
I'm not
condition.
sure it would be transferable anyway to the new ownership. So we'd have to either, even if we could do that, we would have to assign it or renew it, I would think.
Okay. Let me just think. And then you talked about, in our conversation that we had, you'd have to set up a new board. So maybe explain how that would happen.
Right, so there'll be a new nonprofit board, and the nonprofit will be the managing general partner of the urban renewal entity. So it'll be the new board that functions as the decision makers, just like the current Ridgecrest board functions. And what we're trying to do there is put non-investors on that board, again, to keep conflict of interest at bay, especially since that board will make the decisions on how the facility is operated.
Okay. Those are the only questions I have for now. I don't know if anybody else has questions.
Yeah, I just wanted to know who prepared the financial agreement.
Yeah, I did see that. That did come with the ordinance. So that was prepared. Actually, our council, I believe, prepared it, and then at the request, or at least at the agreement of Matt, Mr. Rogers, and also Mr. Rooney, after we spoke, just because the attorney that we have does this all the time and had it on Word, and it was easier to get it done that way. So we had her draft that for their review. I didn't recognize the name of it when we spoke earlier. That's why.
Oh, that's okay. It's all right.
When you're on the phone, it's hard to keep track of everything.
Okay. Anyone else have questions?
Yes, I have one. The prior entity was, or it still is, the Ridgewood Senior Citizens Housing Corporation, Inc. And the new entity is Ridgecrest Urban Renewal Limited Partnership. Is there a reason that you created it as a partnership this time around as opposed to a corporation?
Yeah, so the new nonprofit, which will take the place of Ridgewood Senior Citizens Housing Corp. Inc., is an incorporated. The URE is a partnership because it's a partnership between the nonprofit and the investors. So you have to bring an investor group in now to raise the money. So that's why it's a partnership, and it's an urban renewal entity because that's a technical term that needs to be in there in order to qualify for things like the pilot.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Matt, did you have a question?
No, I don't have any questions. I was maybe going to answer some if anybody had any, but I don't have any questions.
Yeah, I was just, hang on, I'm just looking for one thing. Okay, I'm good right now. I'm good.
Yeah, I mean, as I said earlier, if anyone, please feel free to call me. I sent my phone number around, or just, get me any information you need. Like I said, I've volunteered there for over 20 years with my time. And, the whole purpose of this is to do what's right for the community, keep this as affordable housing and upgrade it for the residents that live there. It's a fantastic place. And, we certainly hope to keep it that way for many, many years to come.
I do have one more question. Can the partnership sell at any point in time?
Can the partnership sell in any port? I don't want to give you the wrong answer on that. Let me answer that. I don't know if it's prohibited or if there's a time period. Certainly, if it did sell, the new entity would ever have to go through all the same things. They'd need a new pilot. They'd need new HUD approvals. They would need all that. So at that time, it could be from your side, could be taken up again. But I don't know if it's prohibited or not. I'll have to get you the answer for that one.
So I think in that our,
Financial agreement.
the financial agreement on Bernadette, if you want to take a look at the financial agreement, item number 8. Once I find it again. Rain is,
Yeah, so that,
yeah, go
that
ahead.
paragraph, that talks about our relationship with the Department of Community Affairs, which is the New Jersey department. So this document was created based upon the New Jersey statutes, which is exactly where this paragraph comes from. You can look it up. It's boring, but I can give you the statute number.
Yeah, go
The statute number is NJSA 40A:20-1. And this talks about terminating with the DCA, but the real codification to remain affordable is our agreement with HUD, and that's obviously a federal agency. And that's where we have a deed restriction with the use agreement. So even if we were able to get somehow, and again, no one wants to do this, but if one was to be able to get the commissioner of the Department of Community Affairs to let us out of the agreement, we still wouldn't be out of the agreement because we've done that to HUD and we have an agreement with HUD that we would not be able to get out of on a federal level. I don't know if that makes sense, but.
Anyone else questions? Right.
Okay, I just want to be sure that everyone's ready to move forward with the public hearing and then the adoption on February 10th.
Why don't I suggest this, is that we do have another work session before February 10th. Why don't we relist it next week?
Okay.
Revisit it. We'll make sure everybody, if there's any remaining questions, that they try and get answered. And then that way we have another chance to make sure everybody understands what this is.
Okay.
Yeah, Heather, there was some additional questions that I had for our assessor. So maybe in the next call, the assessor
Sure.
could be on it.
Okay.
Or maybe, just connect with the assessor.
Good. Okay, very good. We're good? Everybody's good? All right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks.
So the next item is pickleball regulations. I just want to mention, we had a presentation on January 13th prior to our public meeting by Nancy Bigos, Director of Parks and Recreation, on various aspects of pickleball. We ran out of time that night. At this time, she's going to summarize where we are now, what we will be doing next week, at which time we will discuss this topic again. We need to agree on hours and days of the week, whether or not it should be rotated between various locations, requirements for paddles and balls, fees for badges, noise level ordinance, possibly having the county person for noise pollution come to measure the decibel levels, court fencing, increasing the height and curvature at the top, and double raft possibly. So Nancy, I'll let you
Okay.
kind of summarize where we are.
I don't know where we are, but this is a beginning, I guess, for us to continue, actually. As you are well aware, we all have had many conversations within the last week. I've had conversations with our instructional staff. I've talked to different individuals. I've shared some with our residents, and also sat down with professional staff to be able to present to you in a synchronized format those areas that the professional staff and I would like to introduce or reintroduce to you this evening as options for immediate success. And then I think, I honestly just need your dialogue and your guidance as to how you want to move forward on this. One of the things that we have heard, all of us, is the enforcement, that we can't eliminate the non-residents unless we have enforcement. We can't change the badge times or the playing times unless we have enforcement. So we can't decrease court hours, we can't eliminate non-residents, we can't enforce the green zone paddles and the muted balls unless someone's there to take a look. I can say that this is something that I can do with the seasonal staff that we have on board, some of our college staff that are still within the community looking for part-time employment. So enforcement is, I believe, our greatest concern, but that's something that within the department we can take care of. After that, I think what we need to be able to do is absolutely agree on some variables. I'd like for us to agree that we need to eliminate the non-residents, and therefore, of that 151 pickleball only badge holders that we had, 82 of them were non-residents. So that brings that number down to 69 residents. Now, there will be a few more, I don't know how many more, but that actually is almost cut the number of players in half. So that is huge for us. So with eliminating the non-residents, with bringing in enforcement, with decreasing the court hours, and I'm flexible with that, whether you feel 10 to 4 or 10 to 5, I just would like a decision. The noise reducing equipment, and then for us to be able to, as Heather had set up earlier today, I've contacted the pickleball players, and we are looking to be able to move forward next Wednesday, the 3rd, at 11 o'clock with a demonstration of the 2 different types of paddles, the 3 different balls that we are considering, have a demonstration, have a learning session for ourselves to be able to evaluate it. And at that time, Maureen Kelly, who is working for the Department of Health in Bergen County as their noise pollution consultant, has agreed to come out to the courts and give us a courtesy review of the before time, evaluate all of the pickleball hittings, the paddles, the site itself while play is going on, and then do a quick walk around the neighborhood and study the noise. I think this does a lot for us. It establishes the baseline, which is no play and just common community conversation, traffic, Route 17, birds, whatever the noise consists of at that time, and then to put the pickleball players on the court and then to be able to measure. So, and then, I think that those are the immediate solutions that I'd like to just be able to start with, knowing that this conversation, is one that's going to continue as we enter into month number 12 of this pandemic. You know, we talked about this last night at the Parks, Recreation, and Conservation Board. You know, just how pleased we are with the amount of our residents recreating. You know, we're seeing residents out and about all the time. Last Thursday after work, Heather asked me to stop by up at Crestview and just take a look-see and see what the pollution situation is there in regards to litter, whether the garbage cans were emptied, what was over the view. And I was really taken aback because while I was there was one young adult male, probably about 18, sitting on the wall by himself. But then there was 2 women and 3 children, all under 4 years old, walking from Crest Road to the view. There was a couple parked in the driveway of one of the residents. And there were 2 sets of adults, couples, my age, walking with their dog up the hill. Now, this is Friday at 10 minutes to 5 on a Thursday early evening, you know, and to see that much activity out and about, you know, was something that I really took awareness of, because our residents are out. They are trying to stay healthy during this pandemic. They're walking more, they're biking more, they're doing the storybook outside of the stable. You know, they are trying also to avoid this COVID weary feeling that is creeping in on all of us, and getting out of doors whatever opportunity they can. So I think that our residents need this opportunity for active participation for our mature adults. I don't know how many other options they have out there. You know, they certainly can go for a hike. I'm not sure how many are riding bicycles. But with the community center closed and some of the facilities, you know, whether they're churches or programs or concerts or, you know, other activities that they would be engaging in during this COVID time, they're not participating in. So this is important to them. So I know that we'll continue to research best practices. I know that Councilwoman Perrone is working on a noise ordinance that she's studying that with different types of maintenance equipment. And I know that we have to be thinking long-term, you know, where do we go from here? I have reached out to a company and will have a price on the installation of additional courts to be able to at least talk to you about when it comes time for capital budget. So we're working forward and looking forward to different solutions to the problems that we have. But I want to leave it up to you and ask you for your recommendation, just so that you know, it's important for our staff to be able to administratively begin the registration process for both the Graydon Pool, the tennis badges, and pickleball badges. What we're doing is that we're behind already a month, and this is for us the busiest pre-season planning time of the year. You know, hopefully we'll be able to have summer day camp and a great summer and cash shell programs and little mini camps and skateboard and all of those things that our residents absolutely love. But I'm begging you, please, to help me find a solution for this, so that we can move forward.
So Nancy, okay, so I just want to kind of dial back a little because there was a lot there. So I'm going to stay focused on this, but first I'm going to say thank you to you and Heather for going up to the View, because I know our resident down there appreciate, up there and down there both, right? It's kind of funny.
Mhm.
Appreciated that. So that's a good thing. That's good. So here's my thought, and I everybody can jump in. The one thing I want to say, when we go on the 3rd to test out the rackets, right, February 3rd, just so we have a flavor for what the experience was prior to pickleball, albeit the courts weren't being used, I think we should also add tennis racket and tennis balls into the mix, so we kind of gauge the difference, if that's helpful. The next thing I would suggest is, and I want to keep going back to that noise level. You want me to give you a minute, Nancy, so we can write all this out? Okay.
I've got it. Yep,
Okay.
thank you.
So the one thing I wanted to point out, that as we're talking about noise ordinances, and I know in your slide presentation, it was a little, the thing about the noise ordinances hadn't been updated. And I know I hear all the time from people about the leaf blowers and everything else. And God only knows, it drives me crazy. I'm usually out there with my decibel reader. But the thing about this noise that the folks in the neighborhood are complaining about is not necessarily the loudness, as it is the duration of the pop, 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 pop. So it's constant. So it's we were 2 tennis courts, 8 players, 2 balls, and now we're 4 pickleball, 16 players, 4 balls, all on graphite rackets. So I think that, and that's all day. So I think the things that we should focus on is, let's test that out. And then also, while we're thinking about I thought we were going to retape or tape up those other tennis courts to just.
Until a decision's made.
I'm sorry?
The council has to make that decision.
Yeah, no, I thought that was, we were going to do that like as a test, because that's just, we're not
No.
going to do it permanently.
Because we need to know what exactly it is we're doing. We need
Right,
to.
no, I understand that, Heather, but just let me finish. If we were the same way that we did the original test of those locations, I thought we were going to redo that so that those can be utilized as pickleball courts, the same way we did it when we were testing out where to put them. And I just correct me if I'm wrong, I thought we taped out different courts and we tested it first. And so I don't understand why we can't be in test mode and then at least open up if the sound is mitigated to the extent that we can open up the Glen courts at least for 2 days of the week. At least we get that rolling, but we're also testing out the other locations to see how doable it is.
What I need is agreement by the majority of the council to do a rotation. We have not gotten to that point yet. Once we get to that point, you also want 200-foot notices sent out. So until we have a concise plan as to what we're doing, I can't send out those 200-foot notices. We can't tape up those courts because I don't know if all of you want to rotate it or not. So why don't we start with this? Does everyone agree that we don't want to allow non-residents to play pickleball? Yes, yes, yes. Okay, so that's an agreement. Okay. So we have an ordinance which we can introduce February 10th, which will allow for that. And agree. Also, do you agree to have the seniors pay $20 for the whole year? It's a minimal amount, but it does allow them then to register, and they can then go in through Community Pass and reserve. Nancy has told me that none of the seniors she's spoken with object to the $20 for the year. So everyone's okay with that? Yes, 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 yes. Okay. So, and then the other one was the guest pass was $10, correct, Nancy?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and everyone's okay with the $10 for a guest pass?
So I have a question about the guest pass. A guest pass can be a non-resident, obviously, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, and there's no, like, how does one, just say I was playing pickleball with, you know, two of my friends who are badge holders, and I have another friend that lives in Glen Rock, and I say, oh, come meet us at the courts, you know, but she doesn't have to. Who does she pay $10 to? Like, who's going to keep track of?
So the way that it works, Lorraine, do you have a Community Pass account?
I do.
Okay. So what happens now is that we have this drop down feature that you would sponsor her. So the non-residents are not able to purchase guest passes. Only the residents can purchase guest passes.
Okay.
And that is something that you would do yourself as a drop down. And then what happens is that you are able to then print out that pass for the day.
Okay.
So,
but as you said, I mean, we could be playing on the court, and unless somebody comes and say, let me see your passes.
I said number one was
Okay.
enforcement.
Right, right.
None of this will work unless we have enforcement.
Okay.
So
I have a question about how you came to the 69 resident pickleball players. So just, I mean, I know how you got to that number, but my question is, prior to all of this, you used to have to make an appointment, you know, a slot, a time schedule that you were going to play, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So say I was playing with 4 people, I sign up, but do I list the other people's names, or I just book a court for 4 people? Okay.
Correct.
So there could have been many people that you didn't know about that were playing, but just for example, when I was a kid, my parents were big tennis players. Grew up in Fairlawn, and then tennis was big, it was hot. My mother had to call every single morning, I think at 8 a.m., because you could only book 1 week in advance. So she had to be on the phone every single morning to book that court for the following week. And she played with 3 other people, but she was always the one making the appointment. So there were 3 other people that played tennis, but Fairlawn probably didn't even know that. I mean, maybe they did, maybe they didn't. What I'm getting at is there could be another 100 people, another 100 pickleball players in Ridgewood that we really don't know about.
They would have had to have, well, unless they were playing illegally.
Right. Did anybody ever check badges?
Yes.
Okay.
We have full-time staff that are checking badges on a weekly basis. So not every day, but every couple of days, the weekends primarily. I mean, that's key, playing time.
And did they tend to find people that were playing that did not have badges?
In the very beginning, more so, but the word gets out and people don't want to be humiliated. I mean,
Right.
For a simple $40, you know, I wouldn't embarrass myself in front of my friends.
Right. No,
and not have a badge.
It's a bargain at $40.
Right. And the other thing is that once the players became familiar with themselves, they started to self-enforce. You know, so they would know, do you have a badge? Okay, yeah, let's go. You can play in. But if you don't, you're gonna sit out.
Okay.
You know.
But I am guessing there's probably more than, I would say there's got to be at least 100 pickleball resident players, I would think. Well, regardless.
Right.
All right. So that was my first question. The second one, I really do feel that having 4 courts at the Glen School it's not, we're not going to be able to mitigate the noise with 16 people and there could be sometimes, I mean, I know when I went to the court and I play tennis and somebody recognized me, a woman that I play tennis with, and she's like, oh, you're going to start playing pickleball, whatever. So we started talking, and she was saying how that at 9 o'clock that morning, all 4 courts were taken and there were 20 people waiting to play. So that's 36 people. We have to, I think if we had 2 pickleball courts at Glen, the sound level would hopefully be acceptable. Because I know when you tested out the courts and you had 2 courts being tested, that I don't think the complaints started until there were 4 courts. And of course, COVID and everything got very intense, and they were, booked from the time they were open till the time they were closed. So what I'm getting at is the only way to alleviate that is to offer other courts. So if I know the plan B was, to have Monday and Tuesday Glen, Wednesday, Thursday North Monroe, things like that. I still don't think that would be helpful because it's still only 2 pickleball courts per day. I think we need 4 pickleball courts per day. So if we had, Glen and North Monroe on several days, and then we would have Bel Air and something else, I kind of fooled around with it. And if you're going to have, I don't know if I'm necessarily in agreement with no pickleball on Sunday, because Sunday's a day when everybody can get out and play. I think the hours should be limited on a Sunday. I mean, not before 11. You don't want to wake up to that noise. But if you included Sunday 7 days a week, and you gave each of those 3 locations like four days, then we could have 4 courts every single day of the week. Does that make sense?
No, but I'm sorry.
Okay, so
I understand. I hear you with eliminating half of the courts at Glen. I hear that, but I'm not certain what you were saying in regards to court.
She's saying that you on a Monday, you would have Glen and Bel Air. And so you'd make one of those tennis courts at each of those places 2 pickleball courts.
Right.
On Tuesday, you might have Glen and where else are we going? We're going to North Monroe. So we'd have those 2 courts that are in play that day. So each day you'd have 2 courts in play, 2 locations in play with 2 courts at each location for pickleball. So you'd actually have 4 courts total, because you'd have 2 at Glen, 2 at North Monroe. You'd have another day 2 at North Monroe and 2 at Bel Air. You'd have.
Why are we limiting? Why can't we just take that 1 tennis court at North Monroe and make it 2 pickleball courts and let them just play?
7 days a week.
Yeah.
Because I think the whole point in this exercise is that, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's me. I think maybe somebody's missing the point in the whole exercise. We don't want to we want residents to be able to go out and play pickleball. I think we all agree we want everyone to go out and get exercise and participate and get engaged and recreate. I think we all agree with that. And I think we all are working to get to a pickleball solution that allows everyone to go out and play. So the point in it is to not put one neighborhood, not subject one neighborhood to 7 days a week of nonstop pop. What we're trying to do is just say you take 1 tennis court at what we should result in is 2 pickleball courts at each of those locations, and then rotate where you have These two at Monroe and these two at Glen are being used on Monday. Bel Air and Monroe on Tuesday. That's 4 pickleball courts. That seems to satisfy the need. If we then go on Wednesday, we have 2 again at Glen, and maybe we're back to 2 at Monroe. And on Thursday, we're back to Monroe and Bel Air. This is not hard. It's just a matter of scheduling it where there are 2 pickleball courts at different locations, open at staggering times, and allowing for 4 pickleball courts to satisfy the demand. So they're just not all playing in one place and not subjecting neighbors to every single day of that noise. And again, we appreciate that people want to play pickleball. We're trying to come up with a viable solution without imposing this situation on our neighbors. They're our neighbors. They're our fellow residents, where they're literally hearing this morning, noon, and night from the time they wake up from the crack of dawn till the sun goes down 7 days a week. So we're just trying to find a solution. And in order to get to that solution, we need to be creative and systematic and efficient. So this is 2 courts. We tape out. I don't know if everyone agrees. I mean, just weigh in now. If we agree that we're going to at least temporarily tape out these other 2 courts, these other 2 locations, Monroe and Bel Air, tape out 1 tennis court into 2 pickleball courts, and send the notice that we are doing this on a temporary basis, and we encourage feedback from the residents, put the email, and this way we can gauge whether or not we're creating another situation where we're denying people the opportunity to, some break. So
I agree. I think we need to do something, because all we're doing right now is sitting here talking in circles and saying, well, maybe we create a situation somewhere else, or maybe we don't, or maybe this works, or maybe this doesn't work. So right now we're just sitting here at a council meeting talking about speculating on things that we really don't have any answers to. So I think to try and move this forward, it's probably a good idea to split them up, 2 courts in 2 different locations, because that way you still have 4 courts in play. So you haven't eliminated the number of courts, but you've cut down the group of people who are going to be at each location in half. So that, coupled with the fact that you've already cut the total number of players in half by eliminating players from other towns, would help tremendously in those locations. And now you're not playing 7 days a week in one location. It's spread out, and these people in every location get relief at some point. They have some quiet days where they don't hear any popping, and I'm sure that would be appreciated. Maybe in areas where the pickleball comes, there are complaints, or maybe there isn't, and maybe there's ways we could work around it. But until we finally agree on something and try it, nothing's going to happen. So I think right now this is something good to try, and we could get feedback and then take it from there and tweak it or try different things. But, until we actually make a decision and try and do something, then nothing's going to happen.
And the one thing I would suggest, I'm going to make a suggestion here. The sooner we test out these rackets, and the sooner we figure out how we're going to stop the pop, pop, pop morning, noon, and night from the crack of from sunrise to sunset, the sooner we do that, and the sooner we figure out how we're going to do 2 courts at Glen, and how we're going to mitigate that impact on the neighbors, the sooner the courts are open. If we can do this if we do this on February 3rd, well, we can be opening these courts on February 4th, at least the 2 courts where twice a week or 3 times a week, where we get the people out playing. So the sooner we get this done and accelerate this, the sooner we have a solution that's at least implemented, and we can test it and see if it's successful. I think but we have to get the act together.
Okay, so I hear 3 of you saying that's what you want. Councilwoman Walsh, Councilwoman Perrin, you agree?
Yeah, so just from the meeting that we had last night, we had a lot of input from pickleball players. I know that we're having another meeting tomorrow, so I see many of them are on right now listening. One of the things that came up in the meeting last night was that The panels that we put up, we actually need to retrofit because we need to raise them a little higher. We apparently have them too low. So that may even also help the situation a little bit, that if the panels are raised and in the correct position, that's going to make things a little bit quieter. And then just with the 3 courts, Glenn, you could do Monday, Tuesday, Saturday, North Monroe, Tuesday, Wednesday, Sunday, Bel Air, Wednesday, Friday, Thursday. That way everybody's getting 3 days. Each court's getting at least 3 days, but alternating days. So there could be people playing at all those courts. But I think, and I recall from the last meeting that, yeah, we wanted to tape up those other courts so that we could get them in use. And I do believe that we should be able to open Glen so that people can get back to playing because those are fully ready. And then, as I mentioned last night in the meeting as well, we have to make sure that Nancy's going to have the budget to retrofit those courts and probably sound panels there as well. So, I think that pickleball is not going to, even though we are limiting the amount of badges, I think it's growing and we're going to have even more. So I do believe that retrofitting the other courts is going to be a definite positive. But if we can tape them up as we did for the test, we should do that right away and get those courts in use so everybody can use them. And then, like I said, if we just alternate them,
Did Bernie freeze?
they're used, but only 3 days on 4 courts available each day.
So, and I'm
Right.
just
That won't give us 2 courts each day.
Yeah,
So
it will. It'll give you, so if you did Glen on Monday and Tuesday, and then North Monroe Tuesday and Wednesday, and then Bel Air Wednesday and Friday, and then you have Saturday, Sunday, and Thursday that you could put on any of those 2 courts. So each court gets 3 days, but alternating days.
right, but there's only 3 courts, and if you're giving them each 3 days, that takes care of 6 slots. And there's,
So we have the 1 extra day that maybe we wouldn't have Sunday. I was assuming we still wouldn't have Sunday play.
If we didn't have a day, we'd probably do Monday because the residents do play on the weekends.
Yeah, so we could shift it to Monday. I mean, I was just thinking that it would be 3 days for each court on alternating days so that there's always courts in play, but giving each location a break every other day, let's say.
And I just want to throw in here that in the absence of this testing that we're going to do on February 3rd, well, when we get to that point, when we hear it, we may have successfully mitigated the sound so much that we could do the 4 courts. So I don't know until we do that test. It could be such that that paddle and the ball and the altering of the panels resolves that issue, and maybe we'll wind up with 6.
So
8
it will be
pickleball.
on the agenda next week. So it's good because it's Wednesday and it's Wednesday. We can discuss what we found out that day. So I would like to hold off on doing the taping of the courts because if we've mitigated it enough, then we don't see the expense and time to tape up the courts.
Yeah, no, I think we should get it done because in the event that that doesn't work and where we want everybody to get in there and play pickleball, the only way we have to, we got to put all our irons in the fire.
Okay.
And get it all done. It's just me. I don't know about anyone else.
and
Jump in.
also,
The only person I haven't heard from is Councilwoman Parent, so.
Yeah, the idea of rotating around town to the different courts, I've heard the pickleballers think that's ridiculous. You council, you just don't understand this game. We rotate in and out. Those 20 people who are online, they're going to be rotating in all 4 games, and to spread
that's
them
why
out.
we shouldn't have 4 courts in one spot, because it's just not fair to have 36 people.
May I finish?
Sure.
May I finish? I also would like to try these initial measures first and see, does it come in under 65 decibels and does it comply with the state law before we start shuttling people all around town? And on the other hand, if it still comes in at above 65 decibels at the Glen Courts, well, then by all means, let's try splitting it up, but let's do it seriatim. And to the pickleballers who say council doesn't know what the game is like, we are looking for a compromise. And another thing is, may I finish?
I'm sorry. I thought you
On
finished.
February 3rd, if we are having someone come to test, if the homeowners who are bothered by the noise would like to have, are willing to have the tester come into their homes, well, let's arrange for that. If they give consent, then we'll know what it's like in their homes.
Okay, so I just want to, I'm sorry, Pam, I thought you were finished before.
I am
That's why
finished.
okay, I kind of took a little break. I just want to say one more time, and I don't know how many more times we can say this. I don't know if it's just, just going over everyone's head. It's not the decibel level. You are going to find that the decibel level is probably not in excess of 65. It's probably not in excess of 62. It is in our noise ordinance and in the common law nuisance, it is clear that the noise isn't just about decibels, it's about the duration. So it's not the decibels as much as it's pop, pop, pop from the crack of dawn till the sun goes down. So we have to stop focusing. Now I'm going to finish. We have to stop focusing on this idea that somehow the decibel level is the solution, because the decibel level isn't the problem. It's not a solution if it's not a problem. You're just picking something arbitrarily that has no relevance to what's happening. So it's not the decibels, it's the duration. And if you go back and read our village code and the common law nuisance from the state, it is not just the noise level, but it is a noise that is so constant that the duration of the noise, it becomes the issue. It's the duration, it's the ongoing. So just to be clear.
Then what I haven't heard from the pickleballers is, what are the hours of play that are most important to them? We've just talked about making it 9 to 4, but is there a 4-hour time period that's really important to them? Is it more important to them in the morning or more important to them in the afternoon to play? What days are most important to them? I haven't heard from the homeowners. Which time of day is the most painful to you to hear this sound?
Okay, I think I'm going to go back to the original idea, and I'm going with my original thought. I think we have to work on 2 tracks here. One is the taping out, the noticing the 200, taping out, doing that, and the other is to do the test and look at what the options are. And if people are going to say, if it's not 4 pickleball courts, we're not playing because it's only 2, that's their prerogative. That's their prerogative, actually. But we have to be, again, considerate of our neighbors and our fellow residents, and on both sides. And everybody's going to feel a little pain in the compromise. But I'm sticking with my position that we have to do both at the same time so we can figure out the best way forward as quickly and efficiently as possible.
Okay, and I think we have concurrence from 4 of you on that.
Okay,
So I wanted to ask Ms. Bigos if she knows what time of day is the time that they play the most. We have heard someone tonight say 8 to 12. Is that accurate, or is it more, 10 to 2?
I would believe it's 11 to 2.
11 to 2?
Probably when they play the most, but I am certain that all we really need to be able to do is ask them.
And tomorrow when we meet with them, we can ask them that question. And, maybe a 4-hour duration, we could do 3, but maybe 4 is better to accommodate them. I don't know. But so once we hear from them, we'll set the hours based on our meeting tomorrow. The other, okay.
Can I ask you a question, Heather? Who's at the meeting?
The mayor, Councilwoman Walsh, myself, and Nancy. Because
But you're going to ask the pickleball players.
Correct.
But shouldn't the homeowners also be asked?
Sure, we can ask them too.
You can send an email. They're not in this meeting.
They're not in this
tomorrow.
meeting.
This is just a kind of I think I spoke with one of the members of this group already, so who we're meeting with tomorrow. So I think that we're just going to hear their thoughts on this. But
Why not have a meeting with the residents and the pickleball players together?
um,
So I can just add a little insight. So we had already had meetings with the residents, and they kind of expressed some of their grievances. I know that the pickleballers from the meeting last night were trying to set up some meetings to kind of give their ideas and grievances to us as well. So we wanted to kind of have an open dialogue as opposed to maybe confrontational dialogue with everybody all in. That's why we have these open public meetings, so everybody can call in and speak publicly. But I think the meeting tomorrow is to allow the pickleballers to give their full insight, and they've obviously, many of them I can see have listened to what we've talked about, and they'll be able to give us some feedback as to what we've discussed this evening. So,
and I think it's just important to add that we are really trying to find a good solution that allows the pickleball courts to reopen, get everybody back in there. But the sooner we get all of this done, the sooner everyone's back playing and the residents can rest comfortably and enjoy the peace of their property. So I think that, we're trying to find a solution that's going to be a win-win. And I think we'll get there. I'm sure we'll get there.
So we'll discuss it again, February 3rd, after our demonstration, after this meeting with the pickleballers. And then a decision will be made. Final presentation will be made February 3rd. We'll do the ordinance February 10th. If you're agreeable to a special public meeting, we can adopt that on the 24th. The 24th of February. If not, it has to wait till March. Again, the seniors. The only change really is that we can easily say we aren't selling badges to non-residents. We didn't come back. We need to come back to the $10 for the guest pass. Are we agreeable to that dollar amount for the guest pass?
So I have one thought though on the guest passes. If we have, I think Nancy said, we're going to say roughly 70 resident that are playing pickleball. If we add to that even 20% guest passes, we're inching our way back up to those higher numbers. My feeling is, and I don't know how many guest passes we do on a regular basis, but my thought is that I'm more interested in getting our folks back in playing as quickly as possible. So I'm almost inclined to say, take a step back from the resident passes and let's work this in slowly. We can always add the resident passes, right?
You have to do it by ordinance.
I know.
The other thing is what Nancy shared with me, and I think we had email about this as well, is some of the pickleballers played with their adult children, their college-age children who came home for Thanksgiving, and they did that with guest passes.
Oh, right. So it's a resident too. Sorry.
So let's be able to do that.
Okay.
We could just go with the guest passes, and if it becomes a problem, we could suspend that portion of the ordinance.
Good.
Okay, so we'll do.
Yeah, but Nancy needs to be able to start selling the passes.
Correct.
So are we opening the Glen courts as of Monday then? No?
Because we have to have the demonstration. We have to decide exactly what days we're doing on what courts. So we can send out that notice to the 200-foot list. So,
But Glen is already an operational court. So couldn't we just say we're going to open Glen for Mondays and Tuesdays?
Yeah, but we don't know what how the rackets and the balls will be yet. We don't know. We're testing them on February 3rd.
Right.
That's where the whole point is, that we're testing it to see.
So then is Nancy going to have to prorate the badge sales?
You know what? It's $40 for a year or $20 for a year. We're not going to prorate it. It's really very reasonable for an entire year. You probably spend more at Starbucks for a year. Honestly.
A question about the guest passes. Is there a limit? Like, can a person only have 3 a day? Can a resident only get 3 a day?
you know what, I don't know about a limit, you know, the majority of our residents have resident badges. It would only be for guests. So I don't know, you know, if you have 3 children that are home from college and you want to play with your children, or, you know, you have company visiting you, I'm not sure. That's something you can discuss.
Well, if you want to put a limit on the guest number, we could do that.
No, but Mike's right. Mike's right. We can always
Right.
change it after.
Sure,
We just
okay.
have to get the ordinance done. So he's
When
right.
it gets
We can just,
passes, and if it's
yeah.
a problem, you can suspend it. But I don't see that as being a huge ongoing problem.
I agree.
Okay.
So let me ask you a question, because I'm a little confused. I thought we had said that, yes, we were gonna take one court from Bel Air and North Monroe and tape it out. But now I think Heather just said we're not doing that until we
No.
discuss it again.
Now that 4 of you have said, yes, you want that, we're going to do that.
Oh, okay.
Okay, but I need to also know the days and the times, which we won't know till we meet with the pickleballers and then email the residents. We need their feedback to determine what times it's going to be, and then also determine what days on each of those courts it's going to be, of those 2 courts it's going to be, right? So, and then I want to be able to send out to these residents within 200 feet, something very concise, saying, these are the hours, these are the days that they're going to be at your court. Please provide us with feedback, you know, and go from there. Because for us to just say, we've taped up a court, they're going to be there occasionally, you know, I want to give them precise information.
I understand that, but so you're gonna take input from the pickleball players and input from the residents to decide what
That's what
days.
was just said. If that's not what you want us to do, we won't.
No, that's fine.
Okay, okay.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we meet with the other folks tomorrow? We'll do a little outreach to the neighbors.
Right.
We'll come up with a schedule.
Correct. That's what I want to do.
We're going to do the testing on the 3rd. And by that point, by the 3rd, because the 200-foot notice is going to take time anyway, by the 3rd, when we come back to Village Council next week,
right,
we should be able to, I think I'm losing my voice again. We should be able to have a schedule.
Correct.
We will have established the noise issue. We will, I think at that point, I'm optimistic we'll get at least the Glen courts back open by then Thursday, at least on a part-time basis or however it falls into the schedule, and we'll get this done. So why don't we just have that meeting tomorrow, listen to everyone and do the outreach to the neighbors, and then we'll move from there.
Okay.
That make sense?
It makes sense.
Okay.
Okay, so that's what we'll do.
Thank you, Nancy.
Okay, our next item is under operations. We have received a profit and loss analysis, a home inspection report, and a structural engineer's report on 1057 Hillcrest Road, which are voluminous. I've asked Chris Rudisauser, the village engineer, and Paul Kalksma, the director of the building department, to review the reports and provide a summary of their recommendations for possible next steps. All of this will be discussed at the February 3rd work session, after the village council has had a chance to really read all the material, because they were quite voluminous, and the additional material prepared by Mr. Kalksman and Mr. Rudisauser. So at this time, we're not really going to discuss it. You know, if you do have any specific questions, you can certainly email me, and I'll have, you know, either the engineer, the structural engineer, the home inspector, or Mr. Rudisauser or Mr. Kalksman respond. Okay.
Okay.
So the next item after that is the proposed revisions to the dining corral concept. So as you know, we created dining corrals in the parking spaces in front of some of the areas such as Steel Wheel and Sook and Esagidio. There are several. The next step would be to make them semi-permanent by installing removable pipe bollards. And it would be to install them, they're inserted into a socket installed in the pavement to create an enclosure around the tables, which would provide a delineation of the dining area, just as the Yoducks have done in the past. When the bollards are not being used, they can be removed from their sockets and stored by the restaurants. The sockets are then covered with a metal plate. that provide a secure surface for traffic and pedestrians. The bollard corrals could be used year-round as long as the weather cooperated. This CBDAC actually was in favor of this concept, as was the management team of the police department. The bollards can be ordered in black color or 5 other colors with reflective materials. He recommends, Mr. Roteshauser recommends that the bollard corrals be considered to be permitted to occupy village parking spaces only on select streets. And those streets would be selected by the traffic bureau. Also suggests that businesses utilize such corrals, pay the rate for each parking space they occupy. Each bollard would cost approximately $450. Either we could have the restaurants purchase them, or we could purchase them in bulk and then they would purchase it from us. And then we could arrange for the installation, and then they would pay for the number of bollards required for their corral. They would be, each restaurant would be responsible for managing the bollards in accordance with an approved plan. So he does have a proposal to regulate it, and it will be as part of the outdoor cafe ordinance. I don't know, Mr. Roteshauser is here if you have any questions. Okay.
So
Go ahead,
I
Brian.
have a question. So I will say this, you know, the one thing that I've been comfortable about when driving past these corrals is that it feels like there's a barrier between pedestrians sitting on the street and the automobiles. I think I would feel less comfortable with this type of a bollard because I feel like you've got like a, currently I feel like you have a safer like line of sight when a car is coming through. And I also think that, I don't know that the establishments have the money. You know, are they gonna be paying for this? Because, you know, I'm just thinking of Steel Wheel, the linear feet there. You'd have probably 10 of these. You know, they're gonna pay $4,000 to do that, where we already own, or we already have something in place that isn't gonna cost us anymore. So if we're pinching pennies, I don't know that, you know, adding this is going to be a positive, but it's just my opinion.
Well, the Yoducks that we're currently employing are taking a beating. They're getting wear and tear on them. We just went through with the restaurant owners of using a brine solution so they don't freeze. Previously, we were only using water in them. Obviously, in the winter, when it gets much colder, we cannot have them turn into a block of ice because then it would crack the plastic. So we discussed antifreeze solutions, and we elected to go with a brine solution. It's working very well. It's also the lowest cost method that we can employ so that the people with the corrals don't have that high cost. As to your comments, will the pedestrian feel safe? I believe they will. The traffic on the streets that these would be proposed on is 25 miles an hour or less. We are looking at working them out with the police department, putting maybe doubled up in critical areas and a spacing of no more than 4 feet apart.
What is the cost to install? That's the cost.
Excuse me again?
What was the cost to install each bollard?
I would estimate probably in the range of about $100 because you're going to have to drill a hole into the pavement and concrete in the sleeve socket.
So that's in addition to the cost of each bollard that we just heard, right?
Yes, those are approximations because from the manufacturers, the cut sheets that I submitted with the packet to you folks, the more we buy, the lower the price is. So if everybody wants to buy in and we are going to purchase 100, 150 of these, we'll probably get a much more attractive price than if we just buy 50.
So then on the, if I'm looking at the, for instance, model R7902, And by the way, while you're looking for that, I just wanted to say I was kind of curious what happened with the antifreeze versus the brine. So I'm happy to hear the brine is in the thing.
The brine is working so far.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that the other day, whatever happened with the antifreeze. Okay, so on that R, for instance, R7902, is that cap piece that's there? I see the cap. Is that cap piece hinged? So if you pull the bollard out, it just flips down so no one has to go looking for that cap?
That is the intention. And then it'll cover the bollard socket so it's safe to drive over and safe for somebody to walk over. We don't want to leave like a pothole.
Okay, and then what happens to the padlock?
Padlock can be taken away with the bollard and stored.
Okay. All right. And then who would be, if the bollards had to be removed and stored, who would be removing and storing?
This is something that we can discuss with the restaurants. I would prefer that they do it. If they did not want to do it, I would have to charge them for the efforts of our staff, the village employees, similar like we did with the pedestrian mall.
So, and then, so these are made out of that heavy, they're heavy, right? Whatever they're made out of, they're heavy.
They're steel.
Okay, so I can't really hear you, Chris. I don't know if it's your connection or something.
I don't know. I lost my audio. Let me see if I can get it back.
Now we
Actually,
can hear
now
you.
you sound fine, whatever you just did.
Oh, I just clicked the video that said not working.
I hear you well.
It's working.
No, you're
Okay.
fine.
Chris, I have a question.
Sure.
So if I'm driving down the street and whatever, I have a medical episode and my car goes crazy and I drive into the bollard, is that bollard gonna tip over and I'm gonna drive through it?
Depending how fast you're going. I mean, if you're hitting in excess of 25 miles an hour, you'll probably take out a couple bollards. You'll probably rip the sockets out of the pavement. They're not going to stop. They're not going to stop a runaway vehicle or runaway truck. Neither would the Yoducks.
Really? I don't know. I just, as a consumer, I don't think I would ever sit in an area like that. I would, sorry. I wouldn't do it.
So I'll say, I think it's a much cleaner look. There's no doubt it's a much cleaner look. However, if I had little kids, I would be totally unhappy if I had little ones, because that to me would be absolutely vulnerable. But it's such a, but I did read that you could put like flower boxes between them. But again, that keeps just increasing the cost.
Yes.
The cost keeps going up.
A restaurant, if they so choose, they can put like flower boxes between the bollards, as long as it didn't extend the footprint past the parking space. They could put a chain between the bollards if it's to keep little kitties corralled. The driving genesis for this, though, is our current pandemic situation, and we have no idea at this time when people will be allowed to dine again in a restaurant, or more importantly, when people will be comfortable enough to go inside to a restaurant. Here, by creating the corrals like we've done already with the Yoducks, we're creating an environment that people are enjoying going out and eating out with. We also have the bubbles.
I'm sorry, Chris, what was the spacing on them again?
I would like to have it about a 4-foot spacing between the bollards, 4 feet on center, and a tighter spacing, maybe at critical corners when, in discussion with the police department.
So this came from CBDAC?
Well, Chris brought it to CBDAC and people liked the idea.
So
The CBDAC, it is something I've seen elsewhere. That elsewhere happens to be in Europe, where people are very comfortable dining outside. Just go to Paris sometime, particularly in the nice weather. Nobody wants to eat inside. Everybody sits outside. This is a great way to give a boost to our restaurants to hopefully survive until this pandemic is over and done with.
Well, they have the Yodocs, and I just want to say that it shouldn't get past anyone that just a couple of agenda items back, we were talking about all the crazy U-turns and the double parking and the illegal activity, the vehicular activity going on. So I kind of share Councilwoman Walsh and Councilwoman Reynolds' concerns regarding that, the vulnerability aspect of it, but also I have to couple that with the driving that we're observing downtown. I don't know, but but I don't know if anyone else has a thought.
As far as I know, we haven't had any issues with vehicles versus the current corrals that are out on our streets. I mean,
And when you were at the CB DAC and this was presented, I'll just ask, how many business restaurant owners were there and what was the feedback from those individuals?
I don't know how many restaurant owners were present at the meeting. I do know that Paul Vigianos did poll the current businesses or restaurants that have corrals, and they were all in favor of going to like a bollard corral.
Yeah, Randy Carson from Park West Tavern loved the idea.
Yeah, they're nice. They look so clean and nice. I would love to see them in black. Black would make everything just pop and look nice.
Well, black would reflect the material.
Anything but orange.
See, and I think just the opposite. I think orange, like people see it when they're driving. They know, if it blends in, somebody's gonna hit it. I'm sorry.
What colors do they come in?
They come in, like Henry Ford once said, basic black, but you can get a multitude of colors. That's also a decision that the council can make. Would the council want to permit each restaurant to select the color of their own, as long as it had a minimum of reflective material on it for cars to see them with their lights on?
So that would probably add, if we made it a specific color, that would, like a custom color, like we said, orange, but they come in basic black, then doing that orange probably is going to add to the cost.
It might, yes.
Yeah, it's probably going to add significantly to the cost.
Can I ask a question though? Like,
Sure.
what we have now works. I mean, is it just for a visual appearance that people want to do this? I've never heard anybody complain, oh, those orange things are so ugly, I don't want to eat there.
Well,
I think they're ugly.
Temporary.
Yeah. Also, isn't the installation and removal much less labor intensive with the bollards?
Yes.
The Yodocs, it's a lot of work.
That's absolutely correct. And plus, like, the Yodocs are a basic Jersey barrier. They give every appearance of being a temporary construction site. I mean, that's what they're originally intended for. With something like the bollards that's being proposed, it's a little bit more of a permanent corral, looks more permanent, and looks like it can look like it belongs in the streetscape.
Do we want to try it in one area and see how it goes?
That's something we can do. We could ask one of the restaurants that has a corral if they would like to be the pilot study.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what happens if we dig all those holes in the pavement and we do all this and then everybody says, yeah, that's not going to work. So we have a problem then. But I do kind of
Like
like.
a pothole.
I'm sorry?
It would be like a pothole. Fill it with asphalt, tamp it down, call it a day. Have a nice day.
Yeah.
So Chris, we've spent a lot of time on citizen safety together over the years, and all I keep thinking of is how many bollards we had to replace at Linwood and North Walnut because people were just turning and just driving over them. So I'm still concerned that the visibility, even if they're orange, as Councilwoman Reynolds was saying, to be visible, We've put them in front of the Starbucks and people literally dragged them down the street. We've put them, the high school, remember the one right in front of the former Board of Ed member's house? How many times that was dragged down the street because people just drive over them.
Yeah, but they're a different material. They're not placed in the street and they're in they're in that sleeve. And
Yeah, but
then
they used to be bent over. If a car hits them, they're going to bend right over.
no,
They're not filled with anything. They're not like the concrete bollards. They're just hollow.
right. What's
Yes,
do we
there's
know the
no-
weight on it? What's the weight?
I don't know. Let me see if the weight's on there,
look
but they
down.
are steel pipes. They are Schedule 40 steel pipe. Oh, they're about 31 pounds each for a full length bollard.
Yeah, that's like nothing. Yeah, I think it's like nothing. A 30-pound.
Yeah.
piece of
Versus
steel.
a 10,000 pound car.
Yeah, the average SUV is around 5,000 pounds, 6,000 pounds.
I have no clue how much my car weighs. I don't even know how long or wide it is, honestly, so I can't really speak to that. I don't know. Anybody else? I don't know. Come on, Mike, help.
Thinking.
Yeah, I see the weight. It's on the side of my screen, 31 pounds. I just see it there. It's on the specs. Height, 36 inches, 3 feet. Base is 4 inches. That's small. That's a small base diameter too, 4 inches, 4 3/8. That's small.
Well, the current setup won't, as Chris mentioned, wouldn't really stop a car anyway, and it's it's not permanent, it's temporary. I don't know, maybe if they were reflective, you could get, maybe if it was less expensive to get the basic black ones, and then I'm sure you could get reflective tape and maybe wrap around a little bit around the top of it so people can see it, or top in the middle or something, and kind of put like a reflective stripe on the things, then people could see them. I mean, I don't know, maybe we should just try it out in one location and see what it looks like and see if it works instead of, all or nothing.
Where did the I thought I read that somebody had shared someplace they did them in another
Yeah,
location.
that was Stacy Tsapatsaris. They've
Yeah.
done it. They've put them in at their property in Dover.
Yeah. And it's the same setup.
They didn't use them for a dining corral like we would for this use. They used it to block off a street that had previously been a cut through a property that they purchased and redeveloped.
Okay, so it's not where it's surrounding people that are sitting at tables and eating and at the same height of the car.
Right.
Yeah, I'm gonna,
Street, and it's convinced the traffic not to cut through.
yeah. Yeah, I think it's a different situation. I'm actually going to go on the record and say I'm not comfortable with it. Okay, I'm not. Just a safety issue, I think. I share those concerns.
Okay, so we have 3 who are not comfortable with it, so that's a majority. So that's all we have to discuss under discussion items.
Can I, wait, I just wanted to ask Matt a quick question on this. So unmute Matt Rogers. You're muted again. First you were muted, then you were unmuted, then you're, okay, good. So Matt, if we were to do this, if we were to permit this, and then there was an accident, and the accident resulted in any injury, but a significant injury, whatever, by virtue of permitting this, what's our liability? What's our?
I haven't seen the all the paperwork and all the data that was put out there with regard to the use of these bollards. But as long as we put them in the way that they're designed and what they're designed for, we would have that to rely on from a liability standpoint. If we have any inkling that this is really not safe, or if there's any material in there in terms of the use of these bollards that indicates it shouldn't be used in an open, along the side of a lane of traffic or anything like that, then we got to take issue with that. And I wouldn't suggest we go ahead and use them. But if, they're deemed to be safe, that the data that's out there on them, or that it presents a safe usage to, in situations such as this, then I think we are relying on that information. And I think we've got very limited liability capacity in that instance.
So here it's saying that it's make a pronounced statement on your entry to your streetscape, business, park, school, or stadium with a contemporary and practical design. So it's making a statement on entry. It's not being, according just to the general description, it's not being described as a mechanism to block off a part of a street, right?
Well, I mean, again, there's probably more information. That's just the general description. So there's probably more information about them, and particularly with the way that they're installed and what their purpose is and how they deal with traffic. So vehicular traffic as opposed to pedestrian. So I think you got to look a little bit further into it to decide whether or not if they're built in or installed the way that they're meant to be installed and in accordance with the requirements, are they going to be safe in a situation that we have have proposed here? So those are the things you have to look for in the data about what these are and what they're for.
Okay, so before I say I'm uncomfortable with it, I think I'd like some additional information that suggests that the manufacturer, Reliance Foundry, for instance, recommends this item for this use and considers it to be safe. So if I don't know who can find that, but that would be at least to further the conversation. I would want to know how they're using them and what the recommended usage is and isn't, for that matter.
I would say that's a good plan.
Good, thanks.
Okay, we'll contact the manufacturer.
Good, thank you.
So that's all we have.
That's it. Let me just go back to page 1. Okay, hang on 1 second. Buddy, okay. All right, I think with that, we go back to public comments. So let's just,
Excuse me, was E3 taken off?
Yes, it's put on to closed at your request.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's right. Well, I was going to move it from this to closed. Okay.
No,
all right. Okay, so with that, we go back to public comments. Not to exceed 5 minutes per person. Remember, please unmute and state your name and address for the record.
Okay, Siobhan Winograd, bringing her in.
Good evening, Siobhan. Name and address for the record.
Oh, hi, everybody. Siobhan Cram, Winograd, 274 Ivy Place. What a meeting. First, I wanted to call in earlier, but I missed the window. And I wanted to talk during public comment about public comment. Because since October, I've been increasingly frustrated with how the public has shown up and people are writing letters. And in my opinion, there hasn't been as much of a response as I would like to see. And I think many people come to public comment, they come to, be heard, but most people come because they want to see something happen. And, there's been a rally cry for Health Barn. There's been a rally cry to have the discussion occur in public. And tonight it's both in public and in private. And that's concerning. Jan Phillips called in earlier and she spoke about the flag. And the answer that was given to her was although we've had a flagpole in the ground for 2 years, we have no request mechanism, any way to request a flag. And that made me even more concerned because for 2 years since the flag has been installed, I've submitted multiple requests. Pride is coming and these things take time. What you're seeing with pickleball now is now you need to wait for a meeting, you need to wait for an ordinance change. And the answer that was given is sort of a not real tangible answer to do anything with. So for me, I've made 2 requests. The silence in response to my request has been quite deafening. I have no answer. Pride is looming. People are asking, how do we make that request? And there's no answer, yet we have a very physical flagpole. We also have the fact that during this time that we were requesting, the government, meaning the council, actually placed their own flag on the forum flagpole. You know, I'm not meaning to pick, but this is an opportunity for that public comment to turn into an agenda item. And that is just not happening. And I don't know how to make that happen for people who call in. I don't know how similar social media, people have called in. It's been ongoing for 3 years and it can't move past public comment. And again, when people were talking during the pickleball discussion or the health bar discussion, there were lots of letters and people were saying, I'm doing all of this and I'm not hearing anything back. That silence says so much. So clearly when people come to public comment, they're expecting to be heard, which you guys do a wonderful job of listening. But since Ramon has left, they're not hearing a response. And for me personally, we're not seeing an action. So I don't know if you can speak to this after this public comment's closed or if someone wants to call me tomorrow, but the issues I would like to see take some forward momentum that have been being kicked back and forth and met with a, no response, which is actually a huge response. That silence says a lot. Where are we with the flagpole? Where are we with a process that's in the ground? You guys accepted it as a gift, and where are we? And why has none of the requests that have been submitted been responded to? And where are we with the social media policy? How many times are people going to call in and be told it's in the works and then not have a deliverable come up? With pickleball, I wanted to add 2 things. I think it's very important when you give the notice to note that the Bel Air courts back up to Orchard and Bernadette. Remember, many, many years ago, I was the Orchard safety chair. There are a lot of traffic problems there. So when you're doing pickleball, that parking lot is adjacent parking, and Orchard parking is a nightmare. And I think even though my youngest is now in high school, it's still a nightmare. So you should keep that in mind. And the only thing that was left out of the pickleball discussion was the cost of fitting these courts. And I think whatever solution you can present is great, but I do think that it was expensive to make Glen permanent pickle courts. And I just think to Nancy, if she's going to move forward with this, we're going to have to talk about how much money she's going to spend to make other places pickleball. So that's basically it. I know it's ironic to talk about public comment, during public comment, but I'm really hoping this results in some type of response regarding the 2 issues, most importantly, the flagpole, and secondarily, the social media policy.
Thank you. Dylan?
Anybody else, please raise your hand if you'd like to make public comment. I am showing none.
Okay, great. So I'm going to respond. I respectfully disagree with the comments that were made that suggest that we listen but don't hear or we don't act. I believe that we have listened, we have heard, and we have acted. So I think that those comments are just unwarranted and simply put, wrong. We've heard the pickleball people, we've listened to their comments, we've heard the residents, we've listened to their comments, we're taking action, we're doing exactly what we're supposed to do. In terms of social media policy, I believe it's on the February 3rd agenda, Heather, am I correct?
Yes, it is.
And just for the record, we have a social media policy. We've had one all along. We have it in our HR manual. It's been there, it exists, and it's concise, and it's what our insurer, our JIF requires us to do. So in fact, we do have a social media policy. That social media policy may or may not need to be expanded upon. That's certainly something we're going to take up on next week. But it is important to note that we've had a social media policy all along. And if somebody listened when Jan Phillips called in, and I hate to say Jan by name because we're talking about her, but if Siobhan heard what I said I understand, and presumably we should take that up in the near future. I believe that's exactly what I said. So there was no response, and I respectfully disagree with the comments that were just made. And with that, we take a resolution to go into closed session.
Be resolved by the Village Council of the Village of Ridgewood that the Village Council meet in closed session on January 27th, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. or as soon thereafter as the matter on the agenda can be reached, and that said closed session be held via Zoom teleconferencing to the COVID-19 pandemic. Be it further resolved that the matters to be discussed in closed session are limited to personnel matters to include appointments to boards and committees, legal matters to include Barrington Road, Phelps Road, 1057 Hillcrest Road, Town Garage, Cashaw Shell, CSAC. These matters are allowable under NJSA 10:4-12 et sec. Be it further resolved that the minutes of this meeting shall be made available to the general public when such matters have been deemed completed by resolution of the village council. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you.
Night, everyone.
Right.
Going into close. Yeah, good night, folks. I'll see you in a minute.